The last secret, also big explosion, lol. Seriously, Tobirama? Seriously? This is what you and Mido have spent the last 3 months working on? Kami ahem. I have made the unfortunate mistake of allowing my brother to spend time with my wife. An ordinary man might be worried she was cheating on me, but I had no such fears. 1. Because I know for a fact that I am better equipped than Tobirama is, and 2. Because I need to be more worried about them learning to mantle death itself. The Shinigami, Death God, or Reaper Release Mask is a mask that, when worn, allows the wielder to do exactly what I just said. Mantle the God of Death. What that means exactly is something I would love to tell you, except frankly, I have no idea what it means, and I don't think the people who made this thing do either. The primary purpose appears to be that wearing it establishes a very direct and very visceral connection with the Reaper itself. This allows you to speak to it, but more importantly, anything that happens to you will, in some way, happen to it. I have no idea what beheading the Reaper would do, but it's possible that if you cut off your own arms, you could, I don't know, temporarily stop anyone from dying? Maybe? I reiterate, that clan full of maniacs either doesn't realize the implications of what they've built here, or they just don't care. Fucking Uzumaki, the only practical applications of this that they have realized so far are twofold. 1. Someone wearing this mask can perform the Reaper Death Seal without needing to know the hand signs. Yay! 2. By slicing open one's own stomach, one will in turn force the Reaper to slice open his own stomach, and in doing so will release all of the souls currently stored there. Now those souls will obviously go to the Pure Lands, so presumably the only reason you're doing this is because you don't feel great about someone getting eternal torment. That's a highly noble thing to do, except that slitting your own stomach open is basically guaranteed to kill you unless you're, well, me. But I'm sure as hell not trying it out. What, you think I want to talk to the God of Death? I'm just fine putting that conversation off as long as possible. No, that mask is going in the Uzumaki vaults. Apparently they have 26 other masks in there. Kemi knows what those do, and all information on using it is going in the darkest hole I can find. Besides, it's not like anyone important is ever going to end up in the Reaper's stomach, right? Official statement from the Hokage Senju Hashirama on storing this information in the Don't Fuck With These scroll. Sasuke had expected a plan. I mean, this was Itachi plots within plots, and neither of those are the real plots Uchiha. This was the guy that had schemed on the level of Kage when he was 12, that had thread the needle to somehow keep him and Hinata alive in the face of mind-controlling psychopaths and god-like terrorists. Itachi always prepared a strategy, and sometimes he needed to hide that strategy until the last minute, and that was fine. Sasuke trusted him. So, entering Kabuto's lair, Sasuke had expected there to be a plan. He had not expected that plan to be group up, and hit him till he dies. What? Shouted Sasuke, as everything immediately went to hell, and Itachi was in his Susanoo swinging like his life depended on it, and Kabuto was being cut off in his attempts to do an evil speech, and the cave was rumbling around them, and Amaterasu was everywhere, and Kabuto was apparently blind, but that didn't stop him from attacking with the snake that was apparently also an umbilical cord. What the fuck, Sasuke? Tie him down! Itachi jinjutsu'd across, and Sasuke absolutely tried, pulling out the Magatama beads from his Susanoo and hurling them forwards like he'd seen Naruto do with his chains a few times. He was able to wrap around Kabuto's midriff, briefly, but the snake man, literally. Dude, put the robe back on, Bleg, seemed to sag as his form melted into liquid and seeped free of the beads. Sasuke was about to do the logical thing and set the liquid on fire, but a wall of stone, no hand seals, appeared to block his line of sight. He smashed through it with the beads, charging forwards, just in time for Kabuto to reform in a very compromising position. Itachi, Yada mirror up, was right in his face. This was what Sasuke expected to be the culmination of Itachi's plan. He eagerly awaited seeing what those techniques would do. He wasn't expecting Itachi to just run Kabuto through with the Tatsuka blade. His Sharingan showed him in great detail as Kabuto, grimacing, made a single hand seal and shouted release. A split second before the sword touched his stomach. It passed through and nothing happened. Ha! Itachi shouted. Oh, fuck you. Kabuto shot back. You son of a bitch. Ha! I fucking got you. I hate you so much. Na, what just happened? Sasuke shouted as Kabuto threw his arms in the air and stormed off in a hissy fit. Itachi Susanoo fell away, and he began to glow a very bright, very worrying white. He grinned, eyes more alive than they ever had been before. I won. In Hinata's pocket, a certain ceiling scroll began to glow. She looked down at it, then looked back up, as her Byakugan showed her similar things happening all across the battlefield. Ha! Nice job. She smiled. Wow, that was a really meaningful and heartfelt conversation, said Fugaku, as Shursui started to disappear. It was. Shursui nodded. I especially liked the part where we both came to understanding and I forgave you for what you did, and you found closure about what happened. Yes, those were god bits. Fugaku nodded. And the Susanoo and Jinjutsu fights were pretty cool. Oh, yeah. Shame it all happened off-screen. It can go in filler or something. Alright, peace. Madara flashed white, and his Susanoo disintegrated around him just as one fist was about to squish Inoki into the floor. The Kage were in a particularly bad shape. Konan was burned in several places, it was clearly exhausted, and Haku's right arm was hanging limply by his side. The Naruto clone had popped long ago. Madara began to float upwards, looking nothing more than mildly annoyed at the predicament. Is it over? Haku gasped out. Someone undid the reanimation. That means we win, right? Madara started laughing. Everyone sagged. That was confirmation enough. Funny thing about the reanimation jutsu, said the Uchiha. If the summon knows the hand seals to the jutsu, Edo Tensei, he made some seals with his hands, and suddenly the glowing stopped. Then, if they're conscious when it's released, they can exploit this neat little trick by rewriting the contract with themselves. So now the only person keeping me here is me. He landed, looking, if anything, even more intimidating than he had when the battle started. I don't suppose you'd consider just going back to the Pure Lands anyway? Gaara offered. They're pretty chill, actually. You and I would both know, one reanime to another. That's an excellent offer. Madara acknowledged. Here's a better one. Would you like to see what my perfect Susanoo looks like? Please don't fuck me too hard. Haku squeaked. What the hell was that? Sasuke shouted, running up to his brother, who had started glowing white and floating in the air. What about the Jinjutsu? You said you could use Sasuke. Itachi told him, slowly, smiling. Put yourself in my shoes. You're a teenager, and your preteen brother goes, Hey Itachi, what happens if you get in a fight you can't win? I had a nightmare about you dying. Or, Hey Itachi, what do you do if you get in a fight with someone who's a good person, but they're on the bad guy's side? I don't want you to kill anyone who's nice. What do you say to console him? Sasuke blinked, remembering. You tell him you have a special Jinjutsu that affects reality and can bring you back from the dead. And you tell him you have a special Jinjutsu that traps someone in a loop of their mistakes until they realize that they're in the wrong. His eyes widened. Oh, you son of a bitch. You made up Izanami and Izanagi? Yup. Itachi grinned. Not even remotely real. I mean, can you imagine what would happen if that was something Uchiha could just do? It'd be insane. You asshole. Sasuke screamed, trying to punch him. It went through his chest. I believed you for years. It was hilarious, yeah. Itachi giggled like a schoolgirl. And, with that, we are completely clean with regards to me keeping secrets from you. Oh, wait, no, it was actually me that set fire to that one family photo, then blamed it on your cousin. That's it, I think. So hold on, what was your plan going into this fight? Sasuke demanded, feeling, not for the first time around Itachi, like his entire worldview had been torn apart. Murder the shit out of Kabuto. Itachi admitted. That was it? Not at all, no, just step one. Step 2 was reliant on Kabuto being a total pussy. Itachi shouted over. Fuck you. Kabuto shouted, still sulking. I knew he wasn't here for any dramatic plan, didn't have any allies he cared about, goals he wanted to achieve. Means he wasn't going to give his life for the war. Itachi reasoned. I looked up Edo Tensei after old man Hiruzen fell. I was banking that, with all the improvements Kabuto had made to the technique, he wouldn't have made it less complicated to individually desummon the zombies. Not something you really expect to need, huh? You can undo it in one-hand seal, but you have to undo it for everyone. He had a very smug look on his face. I just single-handedly defeated every Edo nin still on the battlefield. If I'm lucky, that includes Madara, the whole Akatsuki, and a bunch of Kage. Itachi is best ninja. Shut up. Sasuke snorted, trying and failing not to laugh. Itachi's stronger than all the Kage put together. Shut it. If you go back to the house, there's a little chart that lists times Itachi has won versus times everyone else has won. I'm already in the lead, but you need to go put another few dozen ticks there. I can't stand you. Itachi solos the Naruto verse. Why is it Naruto's universe? He's obviously the main character. He has the talk no jutsu. Actually, good point. Itachi solos the Itachi verse. This whole sequence of events is going to be called Itachi Shippuden. Okay, so, what's the plan now? Sasuke asked, trying to get back on track. Oh. Now you have to kill Kabuto yourself. Oh. Yeah. Itachi nodded. Just kick his ass, go back and help your team kick Tobi's ass, GG. Since I am a benevolent hero, I will allow you to have some final battles without my help. You asshole. Sasuke shook his head, wiping a tear away. Bap. Don't say anything else. Itachi held up a finger as the lower half of his body disintegrated. I want that to be the last thing I make a person say. He smiled. Take care, Sasuke. And, try not to massacre any clans or kidnap any children, okay? Sasuke kept silent, as instructed, and just nodded. Awesome. Do good, Sasuke. I'd say do better than I did, but, you've already pulled that off. Love you, bye. I'm gonna go fight death. There was a flash, and he vanished. Better than he did, huh? Sasuke Shippuden. Sasuke mused. I dig it. Sibilant. He turned around and focused on Kabuto, who had finally stopped sulking. Alright, apparently we're doing this solo now. I'm aware we didn't really give you any chance to monologue before, and I'm sorry about that, so if you want to take the time now, feel free. Oh. Kabuto glared, which was very impressive considering his eyes were apparently sewn shut. Oh, is it my turn now? Damn you, you're just like him. Just like Orochimaru, just like Hinata. You live in your own special world where the only people that matter are the people with their incredible power and flamboyant personalities. Sasuke tuned him out. Got it. Insecurities, inferiority, complex, daddy issues. Probably gay, but that's probably not relevant here. Doesn't feel like he has a voice, so is lashing out at the world to be noticed. These are first arc character problems, buddy. Alright, how do I piss him off? Oh. Sasuke shouted aloud, interrupting him. I forgot. Kabuto's face scrunched up, curiosity warring with indifference, before he eventually came out with what? Sasuke used a combination shadow clones, transformations and mouth sounds to roughly recreate a confetti blizzard and a kazoo riff. I just remembered something Hinata told me. It's your birthday. Congratulations. Kabuto just stood there for a moment. Then he screamed like a banshee and charged. Hinata, dear Orochimaru called over his shoulder. Coming. She replied, after releasing the seals on Nagato and letting him float off into the air. Then she followed her old teacher across the rooftops. Konoha was dark and quiet. It often was, when it passed evening into night and the chatter in the bars died down. Usually, Hinata could see dozens of shinobi making their own journeys across the village, using the ninja highway of the house roofs to traverse it in relative silence. Of course, that was different now. With so many ninja off in the war, there was a skeleton crew manning the walls, and hardly anyone on the inside. It made it much easier for the duo to cross the city unnoticed. When my arms were first sealed, there were many possibilities to deal with the problem. Orochimaru called to her, dropping down to the floor and clunking two Jonin guards' heads into each other, knocking both unconscious. The one I went with was the simplest in the short term, keep switching bodies. The effects on my chakra would be minimized, and it'd take years for the degradation to disable my arms between swaps. But it would always do so, eventually. It's a fraction of my chakra, my soul, that's missing. I can see. Hinata replied, following him deeper into the building. It's easier with the Gokyai. The chakra in your, traps ahead. I know, darling, I'm not an amateur. He started to disarm them. Right. The chakra in your arms was always borrowed. The Tenketsu there weren't generating their own chakra flow, it was just being pushed through them by the rest. And you never thought to mention this to me before? He asked. She shrugged. I presumed you already knew, and it wouldn't do for me to start pointing out your weaknesses. I was planning to kill you. I couldn't let you know I was planning to kill you. Fair. Orochimaru walked on through the tunnels. Now, the optimum solution to my problem was through a certain tool, an artifact of Fuinjutsu called the Reaper Release Mask. Only problem, it lies in the Uzumaki vaults. Ah. Hinata realized where this was going. Exactly. Not only are they deep in Konoha, and even for me, breaking into this place is no small feat, especially not with Tsunade on the watch for me, but the Uzumaki were the greatest sealers in ninja history. Who knows what kind of vicious traps they would have in store for would-be thieves and trespassers. Even with Uzumaki Karen in my employ, it would be an incredible risk. I told myself that if I ever became skilled enough at sealing to master the flying Raijin, I would try it. And then, I never did. He coughed. But that doesn't matter now, because you're here. If the Hirajikoma can release Bijou and overcome the Koto Amatsukami, it can probably get in. Hinata nodded in agreement. This was what Neji had done to get into her vault, after all. The door they came to was a door. Not imposing, like the giant stone ones before some vaults, or elegantly mysterious like the paper door in front of the Hyugas. It was just a door. Wood. Brass handle. But she could already see the ink and carvings of dormant seals all throughout the door and the walls, and the fact that she couldn't see inside the vault despite her dojutsu was telling enough. She inhaled, walked up, put her hand on the doorknob and said Hirajikoma. Her world exploded, and her eyes widened because oh my lord, this thing was big and complicated, and it almost felt alive, and the moment it realized what she was doing, it immediately isolated her point of contact and set about activating its defenses, and she tried to pull away, but it stuck her hand to the damn handle as it started poking and prodding right back at her chakra. She saw the moment it found Naruto. Meaning, it found residual traces of his chakra on her, from when they'd left the island to enter the war and Naruto had recharged her and Sasuke in preparation. That was insane enough, because sure, sufficiently advanced Hyuga could see the subtle, lingering energy from points of contact with other ninja, but that was with the Byakugan, and this thing was nothing but a set of seals. But it noticed all right. Noticed that it hadn't been left on her from aggressive action, noticed where it had been left on her. Specifically, her hands and lips. There was the brief yet distinct impression that the array laughed. And then there was a click, and the door opened. Hinata's vision returned to normal, and she stumbled back a step, looking at the door with serious concern as it swung slowly open. Is everything all right, my dear? Orochimaru asked. Never ask me to do that again, she said, with a shiver, before cautiously walking inside. Naruto was having the time of his fucking life. Come on, he shouted, grabbing Matatabi by the throat and socking Isabu in the jaw. That all you got? Huh? Could you maybe take less joy in beating us up? We are being forced to do this, you know. Son Goku bellowed back, sounding upset. Naruto headbutted him. 3 of the others charged him at once and he spun on the spot, his tails, 9 of the bloody things, colliding into his attackers and shoving them backwards. This was awesome. He was floating inside the avatar, over 100 meters off the floor, and every movement of his arm was moving gigantic golden arms and legs and claws and power. He could feel his chakra, both inside and out, merged so perfectly with Kurama's that he didn't even need to worry about the Accession overwhelming him. This was what a perfect Jinchuriki felt like. Or rather, this was what a perfect Kyuubi Jinchuriki felt like. And it feels like I can do anything. Easy Kit. Warned Kurama, voice coming from the fox head above him rather than inside his head. Don't get too cocky. He checked himself, shaking his head. Right. Is the yang chakra getting to me after all? No, you're just drunk on power. Oh, okay, got it. Don't worry, happens to everyone. Just try and avoid overly dramatic or balsa plays while you're getting used to it. Before them, the 6 Bijou lined up and began to slowly build up chakra in their mouths. Large purple orbs began to form. Naruto looked at them, then back up at Kurama. Okay, I know you just said all that, but we're absolutely going to try and cancel out their attack with ours, right? Oh, absolutely. Get excited, Naruto, it's time for your first Bijou Bomb. The Bijou Bomb was one hell of an attack to try and prepare, especially for your first time without any training. Naruto had an advantage in that he knew the Rasengan was actually based off this attack, so some of the principles applied. Instead of carefully spinning the sphere, however, the principle of the Bijou Bomb seemed to be cramming as much chakra as physically possible into a given space, and making it stay there with sheer force of will. Fortunately, that wasn't something Naruto was lacking. Following Kurama's lead, he helped to focus all the power into the smallest point he physically could, just in front of the avatar's mouth, and then continued to maintain that pressure as his Bijou poured more and more power into it. The resulting sphere quickly grew to the size of a house, then the size of a warehouse. Then how come this one's so much bigger than the ones you shot at me? He asked, telepathically, trying to maintain the shape of a sphere almost as tall as Konoha's cliffs. B told you, the combining of the shinobi and Bijou chakra results in both becoming more powerful. I've shown you what I can do. But this is what we can do. So Naruto took what we can do and yeeted across the battlefield. Now, Naruto had seen a lot of big fucking explosions. But the explosion that happened when Kurama's attack hit the 6 Bijou's attacks definitely took the cake. His viewpoint from the air well over a kilometer away left him uniquely positioned to remark on its beautiful spectacle, the initial bright flash, the blast of concussive force, and the wave of dust and uprooted trees that spread outwards. Overshadowing all of them was a column of fiery, plasmified air blooming upwards into the sky. Ninja from the other side of the war turned to look. Hinata turned to look. Madara turned to look. A reanimated Deidara was literally stood there staring at it with tears running down his face and a raging hard on while he disintegrated from the breaking Edo Tensei. And then the great cosmic calculator did some maths, drawing a double line under the result of the conservation of momentum calculation. And the shape of the explosion buckled away from Kurama and towards his opponents. Oh, damn, he won, muttered Tobi, before phasing out of existence just in time for the fire to sweep over him. The 6 Bijou withstood the aftermath with varying success. Heavier beasts such as Isabu and Son Goku remained grounded, sliding backwards, while the ones with a higher center of gravity were bowled over onto their backs. The only beast that remained unaffected was the one currently charging towards the rest of them. Following the wave of fire was Kurama, bounding across the terrain with a roar. He grabbed onto the first beast he encountered, arms quickly finding the black rods sticking out of it at odd angles, and then found that he didn't have enough arms for his intended plan. And then Naruto thought, hey, this whole thing is a chakra construct, right? Why don't we just and another 10 or so arms sprang out from the avatar's shoulders and back, latching onto the other Bijou while they struggled to get back up. Hey Kurama, you ever played a game called Operation? No, I'm a giant fox. Yeah, me neither. Well, at least we don't have to worry about hitting the sides. Heave. They heaved. With another roar, do you really have to do those? I'm finally free-ish after centuries, leave me be. The avatar yanked out all the rods from the bijou, flinging them backwards and away in a hail of very deadly spikes. The bijou gave a ragged cheer. They were free. For about 1 second. A giant statue just appeared right behind the beasts, the Gedo statue, and it opened its mouth and chains began to pour out, and Naruto was about to intercept but Bancho Tenin said a voice, and Naruto felt himself being pulled backwards right as his Kyuubi senses let him know that Tobi was stood in the wasteland behind him. He flew right out of the fox avatar, and it disintegrated, damn it. I can't maintain it when we're not inside it yet, and spun around. He may have been on the back foot, but he was prepared. This wasn't his first time dealing with the power. A few hand seals, and Tobi wasn't sucking in a Jinchuriki so much as a giant blue wave of Rasengan. His chakra and emotional signature abruptly vanished just before the attack plowed into him, and then reappeared right after they passed, leaving him unharmed. He reached out with a grab, and Naruto punched. Both attacks phased through their targets. Oh, thank the sage, he can't be intangible and attack me at the same time. If he could, he'd be a god. Of course, the fact that he can apparently just turn into a ghost is busted enough. Tobi backed up, swinging the fan, and Naruto jumped backwards out of immediate range, reassessing. That was your freebie. Tobi warned. I know you know how to counter the Rinnegan abilities, I'm not wasting any more chakra on them. Gee, thanks, aren't you generous? Naruto's eyes narrowed, looking over Tobi's shoulder. Behind the man, the 6 bijou were all pulled back into the gaping maw of the Gedo statue. Where they had once been, he could see the vague forms of 6 perfectly ordinary corpses falling to the floor. 3 thoughts were running through his mind as he prepared to continue the brawl. The first was that Tobi had just used some very expensive techniques with only 1 Rinnegan and seemed fine. This was probably due to the 1 and 8 tails he still had in the statue, working as batteries for his jutsu. Very not good. The second was that Naruto now knew Kurama's name, which was still a thing he was trying to get used to, and that meant that the golden chakra cloak was buffing his speed and strength even more than it already had. And yet, Tobi was still capable of fighting on par with him. What in the actual fuck is this guy? The third thing, huh? GG, I guess. Naruto shrugged. Tobi, I am now going to defeat you using the power of friendship. Please tell me that was a joke. The masked man deadpanned. Nope. Hey, speaking of, wanna hear a joke? Naruto asked, smirking. What's small, sneaky, and can't keep control of an Edo tensei to save his life? Oh, you've gotta be kidding me, Kabuto. Tobi's shoulders slumped. That was when Kakashi and Gai came charging in. Give it up for the Akatsuki's favorite fighting snake man number 2. The torches in the Uzumaki vaults lit themselves automatically as Hinata and Orochimaru entered. It wasn't that unusual for something dramatic to happen upon entering a clan's home. The Hyuga had had a person assigned to ring a large bell whenever someone came in, but the fact that it was happening automatically made it a lot airier. Orochimaru seemed unaffected, walking in brazenly and completely ignoring shelves full of scrolls, weapons, and strange contraptions Hinata couldn't immediately recognize. Do you know what this all is? She asked, gesturing vaguely. Not at all. He smiled, opening every cupboard and side room like a child in a toy shop. And as much as I would love to bag up everything in here for later study, I'd rather not push my luck. Angering this place's rightful owner seems like a rather poor idea. Hinata nodded thoughtfully. Good point. After all, didn't Naruto beat you up when he was exponentially weaker than he currently is? Since I am a mature adult, I will not dignify that with a response. Aha! One of the doors he opened revealed a room that was almost completely empty, save for a long line of masks hooked on the walls. 13 on the left, 13 on the right, and one hung ominously alone on the wall furthest from the door, as though the other masks had tried to edge away from it when they thought their owners weren't looking. It was white, horned, and grinning almost as nastily as Orochimaru grinned on a regular basis. I don't suppose you're after the third one on the left? Hinata asked him. He chuckled and walked into the center of the room, pulling various scrolls out of his pocket. Observe, Hinata, for this is a complex recipe. Ingredients: 1 armless snake man, 1 death god mask, and 5 human souls. Hinata narrowed her eyes. Considering your new good guy stance, where are you planning to get Orochimaru? Tapped a scroll, and it poofed open. 5 white zetsu, bound and wriggling, fell to the ground. Ah. I suppose I shouldn't ask where you got those. Wait, those count? Indeed, and to answer what you didn't ask, I captured them on my way to fight Nagato. These things are clearly not thinking, not sentient. I checked and they're barely even capable of distinguishing friend from foe. But as far as some very specific techniques count, they are human. And isn't it odd how Kabuto was able to find so many people to act as human sacrifices for his reanimations? Either he kidnapped an entire village without being noticed, or he's using these. Good for Hinata paused. Ah. These allies are people you're bringing back from the dead. But who? You said they would be Kage level, and I don't think you have the second Tsuchikige's bone dust in your pocket. I had DNA samples from dozens of different ninja, painstakingly grave-robbed over years of study. Orochimaru muttered, bitterly. But then I had to fake my own death, and abandon all my hidden bases. I can only imagine Kabuto got a hold of them. It would certainly explain the breadth of his current army. But there are 4 very specific exceptions that he didn't bring to bear against us. Can you think of who? Hinata did think, trying to remember who she'd seen on the battlefield. Kage, Akatsuki, 7 swordsmen, a few other notable ninja like Madara. Wait, Kage. Something's missing from that sublist, I can feel it. Come on, Hinata, think. We had all the Tsuchikage, Reikage, Mizu. Oh. He couldn't resurrect the Hokage. She realized. Of course he couldn't. The first 3 were all sealed fighting you 4 years ago, thanks, by the way, and the 4th was sealed when he put away the Kyuubi. Well done. Orochimaru nodded. A little more specifically, they were sealed in the belly of the Reaper, and the Edo Tensei can't get in there. I would know. I tried to summon Minato against my former master, and it just didn't work. And that thing is called the Reaper Release Mask. Are you about to do what I think you're about to do? Hinata couldn't help but feel a little excited. Always so quick on the uptake, I do like that about you. After arranging the Zetsu in a specific way, and more worryingly, drawing the sword of Kusanagi and fixing it at his waist, he walked up to the Reaper mask. This won't kill me if I try to remove it, will it? I have no idea, but I'm not talking to the runes again. No. So what's the plan? 3 steps, Hinata. Step 1: put on the mask. He gently lifted it off its hook, meriting no supernatural response. Then he turned back to the room, breathed in, and put it on. That got a reaction. Hinata gulped as the temperature of the room decreased by about 10 degrees. Orochimaru's clothing, which she was fairly certain was just a curtain, began to billow in a sourceless wind, and though her Byakugan showed her nothing, a dim outline appeared around him. A figure with purple skin and white hair, that was grinning significantly nastier than Orochimaru grinned on a regular basis. Step 2. Orochimaru continued, strange things happening to his voice. Commit Sudoku. Don't you mean Sep? Oh, right, that was a joke. Haha. Hinata replied, weakly. Yes, it was. He said, which was relieving. And then he pulled the sword from his waist and slit open his own stomach. Meanwhile, in a cave somewhere, violence was happening to Sasuke Uchiha. So. Kabuto. I thought I had him pinned as a C-tier villain, but no, turns out now he's Bloodlines McGee. Why the fuck did I piss this guy off? I'll kill you, Sasuke. Kabuto screamed as he tried to kill Sasuke. Fair. I've been a bit of a dick. Sasuke replied. And then I'll kill the Hyuuga bitch too. Also fair. I get that urge too sometimes. Stop agreeing with me. Oh, right. My bad, you're absolutely correct. Ngayaf. Unfortunately, needling Kabuto was much easier than actually hitting the guy. First of all, his eyes were sewn shut, and no non-ocular genjutsu Sasuke had was enough to get through to him. So no cheesing this one. Fuck. And worse, ultimate burning dragon jutsu. Earth Wall. Sasuke's Sharingan showed him in great detail as the head and torso of a ninja. He barely placed the portly figure as Jirobo of the Sound 4 appeared out of Kabuto's stomach and made the hand signs along with him. A giant stone wall appeared to block the attack and in fact absorbed it, something Sasuke remembered the Fat One could do in life. And he can transform into water. Hinata mentioned someone she worked with who could do that. Sasuke substituted his way around the wall, but turned to see Kabuto had vanished. "Is that your gimmick?" he shouted, scanning the room with his Sharingan. He quickly placed Kabuto's chakra signature to the north and the southeast, and in slithery snake shapes all over the cave. Clever. Copying the abilities of your dead teammates? Copying? Teammates? Kabuto let out a hissing laugh, his voice echoing from an indeterminate source. They were never allies of mine. I consumed their powers, and improved on them. Orochimaru's plotting never went far enough. Why sacrifice my body to claim that of another? With enough DNA, I can claim the powers of anyone, and add them to my own. I already have over half a dozen unique Kekkei Genkai, and when I am done here, I shall have yours. Wow. Sasuke paused to consider the consequences of that. Kabuto, your powers are bullshit. I don't even have to qualify that statement. For once, they're even more bullshit than mine. Thank you. You're like an edgy fanfiction OC. What? This is my character, his name is Kabuto, and he can, absorb everyone's superpowers without any downsides. And he is Sage Mode, just like Naruto, and he's even smarter than Orochimaru, and he can summon a bazillion zombies. Shut up. Now, admittedly, taunting Kabuto didn't make the next attack any easier to defend against. A flash of movement from Sasuke's left, and he brought up his Susanoo immediately to block the attack. Which was, in hindsight, exactly what Kabuto had expected him to do. A giant web fell about the Susanoo, wrapping it up and worryingly not combusting on the purple flames. Sasuke spun and fired a bolt from the Susanoo's crossbow, which crashed right into where Kabuto had been a split second earlier. The Snake Man, a title now more appropriate than ever, darted around the cave, slinging more and more webs down onto Sasuke from the body of another Sound 4 member, one Sasuke remembered fighting on a rooftop once. The threads covered the Susanoo, and, very worryingly, began to collapse its structure, eating through its armor plating. Chakra-suppressing web. Son of a bitch. Sasuke jumped up through a quickly closing gap, deliberately to the opposite side as Kabuto was, but was still assaulted the moment he left by Bones. Oh, hello, PTSD flashbacks. He ate Kimimaro. The spikes erupted from the ground and Sasuke twisted, catching himself in an upside-down splits between two of them and turning his head to blast Amaterasu at Kabuto, only for it to catch atop an armor of the webbing he was wearing, which quickly shattered and cracked, but not quick enough to stop Kabuto lunging in and crop Chidori. It wasn't a pretty sight, the way the lightning blade split its way up Kabuto's forearm. The remnants of said arm, bone elongating and sharpening as a remnant of one of Kimimaro's techniques, grazed Sasuke's shoulder and slammed him down into the floor, and it was only the threat of more Amaterasu that forced Kabuto to jump away instead of landing right on him. The arm that Sasuke had split to the shoulder quickly reformed itself, healing all the damage it had taken within seconds. Uzumaki bits? Sasuke guessed, standing back up and glaring. And Senju. Kabuto grinned. I've not got would release quite yet, but I'm close. Sasuke reactivated his Susanoo and flipped Kabuto off. Kabuto didn't respond. Sasuke shrugged and went, all right, you're officially too much of a pain for me to let free. I'm kicking your ass now. He stretched out his Susanoo's arm, while his real body began making hand seals, and fired another purple arrow. Kabuto charged, slithering as much as running forwards and dodging underneath the bolt. And then Sasuke finished his seals, and popped into existence in the air above him. Kabuto visibly jumped, spinning and reacting as fast as he could as Sasuke flung down a web of ninja wire, leaving one strand trailing back to his hand to conduct lightning chakra through. Thanks, Hinata, for telling me about that trick. As back across the cave, the Susanoo vanished once again, leaving nothing but a glowing purple projectile in its place. Big downside to the substitution jutsu, long, easily recognizable string of hand seals. Big upside to the substitution jutsu, everything involved retains all momentum. Sasuke remembered what it was like to fight blind, and one of the most agonizing weaknesses of it? You can't see what hand seals your opponent is making. And as he had tested with the, strangely ignored, raised middle finger, Kabuto's sage senses didn't extend so accurately from without the Susanoo to within. Omi wa, Mao Shindaru, Sasuke said, teleporting behind Kabuto and wrapping him up, as the Susanoo arrow he had substituted with reappeared in his original position and continued to blitz forwards towards its target. Regenerate from this. Kabuto did not regenerate from that. There was the lilting sound of flute music, and all Sasuke's surroundings disappeared. Hinata took a hesitant step backwards from the sight, putting one hand to her mouth to stop the gag reflex as her former master disemboweled himself. A light show was taking place in front of her. The spectral form of the Reaper was now much more visible and more than moderately terrifying, and Orochimaru was howling with laughter, and from their slit stomach emerged a swarm of small, white, balls of chakra, flying around her and away and vanishing to Kami knows where. Two of those spheres instead swirled briefly around the room, before settling into Orochimaru's arms and spreading a warm glow across the two limbs. Yes! He crowed. Finally! Now, I can, where do you think you're going? He reached out with his newly restored arms. The limbs had obviously been there before, but the dexterity and grace with which he wielded them was all new, and plucked four of the larger sprites out of the air as they attempted to leave. After a few more seconds, the wind died down, and the mask dropped limply off Orochimaru's face. He grinned, and promptly collapsed to his knees. Right, got it, dying. Hold on. Hinata didn't really know what happened next, because after a particularly hideous first moment or so, she decided she didn't want to. She shut off her Byakugan and turned away, closing her eyes and trying to keep the bile down. Okay, just tell me when it's over. She called out, shakily. I thought I'd gotten used to his particular brand of disgusting while I was studying under him. I thought I'd seen the depths of it. I was wrong. Soon enough, the rending, tearing and squelching noises all came to a stop, followed by an okay, you can look now. Hinata did. Orochimaru looked great, actually. Better than she'd ever seen him. The lines, rashes, and tiredness Hinata could usually see about his body were all gone, and his chakra network was operating as smoothly as any she'd seen. And his smile was alive. She knew what was expected. Okay, go ahead, Sailor Moon. She sighed. Explain how clever you just were. Thank you, I think I will. He twirled on the spot. She didn't know when he'd managed a costume change, but now he was in loose white-purple robes instead of a hastily wrapped curtain. Presenting the Orochimaru update from 1.8 to 2.0. Arms? Attached. Body? White zetsu. Eyebrows? On fleek. Hotel? Trivago. Oh, Hinata, I am loving this thing. Would release, on the house, and is that a natural connection to nature energy I detect? Maybe next time I visit Ryuchi Cave I'll be able to get Sage Mode. Wouldn't Jiraiya love that? Hinata re-updated her threat assessment, and concluded she could still take him. She pointed behind him to the four other Zetsu stood in a line in the room, black ash covering their bodies. And those? I thought your version of the Edo Tensei was, well, a bit rubbish. Hey! Tobirama could only reanimate one when I stole the technique and improved on it. He gave her an indignant look. Of course, after my death, Kabuto stole the technique and improved on it in turn. But he did so in my abandoned hideouts. He broke out into a smile. So I stole it right back. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. They're practically full-powered, practically guilt-free, coming to a village near you. Please put your hands together for the four figures took on definite forms. Their eyes opened. The fuck? Said the first 4 Hokage. Sasuke looked around frantically, as his surroundings disappeared, world going red as white snakes appeared from nowhere to wrap around his arms and immobilize him. Genjutsu? Against me? What kind of auditory? Oh, that's clever. He strained against it, but though he could see the haze of chakra constituting the illusion, he couldn't do anything to break through it. I'm never saying this out loud, but I kinda wish I had the Byakugan instead at the moment. Okay, think. I still have to deal with the net and the Susanoo arrow, but that buys me milliseconds at most. I need out of here, fast. Need to disrupt it. How? What do I have that can cancel sound waves? Naruto had done it with wind, way back in the Chunin exams, but Sasuke didn't have wind. The principle must be the same, though, especially since he'd caught a glimpse of a woman's body appearing from Kabuto's stomach and knew this was being caused by an actual instrument. How did he disrupt sound though? If he just made enough noise, would the Genjutsu go away? You could allow me, said a familiar voice. How the hell are you in here? Sasuke snapped at Samahata. You're sealed in my bracer, how are you sharing my Genjutsu? Because I am the first among Hagoromo's ninja tools. Fuck yeah, I know the joke, that's great, what's your plan? Merge with me. I will consume the Genjutsu as it reaches you. Do a shark mode and let you chow on my chakra? Yeah, no thanks. I only look sharky because that was Kisame's aesthetic. I could go snake or crow if you wanted, that wasn't the part one took issue with. But the discussion had given Sasuke an idea. Crows. He may not be able to feel or see his real body, but his motor controls should still be functioning normally. That whole learning to fight blind thing really was paying dividends today, as another thing he'd learned was how to rely on his muscle memory, even in absence of proof of his actions working. And with the Sharingan's perfect recall, he knew exactly where he had been stood just before the Genjutsu hit. So, with all his senses telling him that he was paralyzed by snakes in a flat landscape, Sasuke thought the actions of slitting one of his fingers with a kunai, pressing it to the floor, and shouting summoning jutsu. There was a pause, where nothing happened. And then his surroundings began to disintegrate, the perpetual flute music being cut through by a cacophony of screeching and squawking. Thanks, Itachi, for signing me into that one, even if I only usually use it to make my body flicker look cooler. Of course, an absence of a big crow to summon just meant he had made a massive murder of tiny little ones. His vision was replaced with a blur of black wings and the cave ceiling, as apparently he had just fallen on his ass, and quickly brought both his hands up to pierce both his own eardrums. The screeching and the music stopped, and he jumped up just in time to avoid Orochimaru's fucking face slithering towards him out of an approaching Kabuto's navel. That's so gross! Sasuke shouted, not that he could hear his own words, and fired off another fireball that sent Kabuto hurtling back through the cave to crash into a particularly large stalagmite. Sasuke took in a deep breath, and readied himself, as Kabuto did the same, charred skin rapidly healing itself and rage palpable. I know that it's always tempting fate to say this, but I'm in a rush, so let's hurry it along. Do you have any more ridiculous powers you'd like to show me? Sasuke shouted across. Kabuto replied, and Sasuke was able to read his lips well enough to determine, oh, one or two. You know, up until now I was trying to consume your body whole, but now I think I'll settle for scooping up the paste you're going to leave. There was a rumbling that Sasuke could feel through his soles as the cave began to move around him. The toads give frog kata, which provides a force field and invisible, extended reach. Not bad. Kabuto continued, as the rumbling intensified. The slugs give digestive conversion, which converts sage chakra directly into regular chakra, or even vice versa. Also not bad. But I'm a big fan of what the snakes give. His grin stretched wider than any human mouth should go, as the stone pillars supporting the cave began to fracture and fall. Inorganic reincarnation allows me to directly pour chakra into and control inorganic matter. On the surface, that functionally just means nature transformations without hand seals. But down here? He spread his arms wide. Why do you think I chose to make my base in a cave, Sasuke-kun? Oh son of a bitch. Sasuke muttered to himself. The roof, and the thousands of tons of stone and earth above it, started to fall. Which would have been terrifying, except that it was really the simplest problem he'd had to solve all battle. Fuck it, chakra dick flop time. Alright EMS, what's the most ridiculously over-the-top thing I can do with you? He summoned his Susanoo. He summoned the string of Magatama beads. Eyes and chakras straining with the effort, he turned each individual bead into a Susanoo Amaterasu Raisin Kunai. And then he wound his arm up, and swung the whole string up at the roof. The resulting explosion was almost as cool as the one Naruto had made less than a minute earlier. Uchiha was the first word to come out of Tobirama Senju's mouth, even before any of the other Kage spoke. Come again? Replied Hinata, as Orochimaru moved to stand beside her. The Uchiha. He repeated. Are they okay? Sure? Hinata replied. Other than Itachi, unless there are other deaths I don't know about, the clan's fine, damn it. Oh, great, he's still like this Hashirama Senju, god of shinobi, groaned and face-bombed in a very undignified manner. They're a menace, Hashirama. Tobirama continued. Yeah, but you shouldn't be wishing they were dead. It's not like Uchiha lives matter, WHOA. That is, like, really racist. They are literally responsible for all the problems you face that you didn't cause yourself. Tobirama yelled at his older sibling, pointing. Tell me I'm wrong. Hashirama paused, bit his lip, and didn't, and Tobirama pointed right back at Hinata. Let me guess, they're causing problems for you too? Well, 2 out of 3 of the biggest threats to world peace do have the Sharingan. Hinata admitted. Ha! Told you so. Sarutobi Hiruzen held up a hand. As much as I hate to get these events on track, hello Hinata by the way, a pleasure to see you again, what's actually going on? Hello to you too, Hokage-sama. To all you Hokage-samas. We brought you back to help us fight. Hinata explained. You know the forbidden Edo Tensei thing? Yeah. Said all 4 at once. Someone used it to bring Madara back. And then they released the technique and he used it himself to keep himself here, and he's completely out of control and we can't kill him. She summarized. There was a pause. Then Hashirama and Tobirama both turned on each other and yelled, I told you so. Before devolving into bickering. What? You told me? You're the one who made the thing in the first place, you're the one who showed it to Madara, he was joint leader of the village. And I killed him. Well, you obviously didn't do a good enough job, good Ino motherfucker, he was dead with a capital D. There was a brief blur, and then Namake's Minato held up a hand. Hey, what's up? I was just checking out the village perimeter, did I miss anything? Nah, you're good. Said Hinata, who had seen him leave. Wait, you were gone? When? Said Orochimaru, who hadn't. Like, the last 10 milliseconds. Oh hey, Orochimaru, how's it going? The 4th Hokage gave a cheery wave. Been a while, huh? Remember how you wanted to be Hokage, but I was better than you in every single way, so you left the village in a hissy fit? Orochimaru made an outraged face. That was not, oh yes, that did happen. Hiruzen hummed. And then there was that other time where you wanted to beat me in a fight, but I was better than you in every single way, so I sealed your Hokage summons, and you left the village in a hissy fit. That Orochimaru sighed. Look. I was hit by a Koto Amatsukami from one of Danzo's minions. Hinata here killed him and it wore off, so I'm a good well, I'm only morally ambiguous now. The kidnapping children wasn't me. Hiruzen frowned. That is conveniently exactly what I've always wanted to hear. It's the truth. Hinata piped up. I can tell when people are lying. Oh, good. In that case, Hiruzen immediately ran forwards and threw himself at Orochimaru, and the Sannin was about to raise his arms to defend himself when the Hokage instead just wrapped him up in a hug. I'm so happy for you. Oh, I always knew you would be good sensei. Get off me. Orochimaru hissed. This is undignified. Hinata tilted her head and asked, "Can't you just order him to get off?" "No, you don't understand, none of them should be even moving," Orochimaru told her, trying to extricate himself. "They should only be able to speak. I don't know how any of this is happening. I'm a Fuinjutsu prodigy and my wife's an Uzumaki." "Wasn't that hard?" Minato shrugged. "I broke the control on Hiruzen myself. And I'm pretty sure those two just sort of flexed. And it was off." His eyes flicked across to Hashirama and Tobirama, who were now wrestling on the floor. Hinata had seen the seals, of course, a complex little thing on the backs of each of their necks. She just barely caught Minato doing some very fancy work to his, and then to Hiruzen's, while Orochimaru wasn't looking, and then she'd decided not to tell Orochimaru because it was funny. She'd watched Tobirama make a big show of straining his chakra before eventually simply overloading his seal, disintegrating it. Hashirama, she hadn't even seen do anything. Like, he blinked after coming back to life and the thing was gone. Maybe, in hindsight, reviving a bunch of people significantly more powerful than me wasn't an incredibly intelligent idea. Orochimaru mused. "Oh yeah, who are you by the way?" Minato asked Hinata. "You're the only one here I don't recognize. You'll be, Hayashi's daughter, correct?" "Yes." "Hinata Hyuuga, sir." She inclined her head. She blushed, "I suppose I'm your son's girlfriend." The face Minato made was a sight to behold, the sheer delight that appeared there as his eyes widened and his hands went to his cheeks. "Naruto got a girlfriend?" Oh, Kami, Naruto. How is he?" "How's my son? Is he alive? Is he well?" "Oh, he's doing great," Hinata replied, her voice cold. That whole despised by the entire village thing really did wonders for his psyche. There was silence in the room. Even Hashirama and Tobirama paused what they were doing to turn and look. Hinata leveled a glare at Hiruzen and Minato both. "I would like," she told them, "to receive a very good explanation for what this village did to Naruto Uzumaki." An observer from the sky above Kabuto's hideout would have seen the innocent-looking grassland begin to crack and shudder. They would have seen those cracks widen, spread, and deepen, and then fall into one another as the entire area began to buckle and fall. And then they would have seen an eruption of rocks and dirt as Sasuke's Susanoo, now with legs, blasted upwards from beneath the earth's surface. It promptly fell back down into the rising dust cloud that now blanketed the disaster site, obscured except for a vague purple glow that occasionally flashed a brighter red or blue, and that was all our hypothetical observer would have been able to see for the remainder of the fight. Sasuke was not our hypothetical observer, though he was the one to have come up with the hypothetical in the first place as a follow-up to how he really wished he had Hinata's flying powers right about now. "You bastard!" Kabuto shouted, revealing his location to Sasuke, not that the Uchiha needed it, his Sharingan could see easily enough through the dense fog. Hell, he was literally lip-reading. "I'll kill you." "You've already said that," Sasuke reminded him, charging in. His Susanoo punched, and the ground in front of Kabuto rose up into a shield to block the attack. "Get more original battle dialogue." "I'll kill you," Kabuto repeated, making a yanking motion, and the unstable ground beneath the Susanoo's legs shifted, burying it knee-deep. "And then I'll consume you. And then I'll consume Hinata, and the Uzumaki boy, and your precious Kage, and then I'll demand tribute from every clan and bloodline in the world." He jumped upwards as Sasuke was trying to free himself, and unleashed a hail of bone spikes that dug into the Susanoo's exterior, forcing it deeper. "I'll conquer this whole twisted fucking planet," Kabuto screamed, "and then I'll claim and combine every scrap of genetic power in the world until I supplant the Sage of Six Paths." "Okay, that's a bit more original." Sasuke's Susanoo, legs now fully stuck in the gravel, reached inside itself and grabbed Sasuke, throwing him up, out, and free. "Why the hell do you want every Kekkei Genkai?" he shouted, creating a pair of Amaterasu Raisin Kunai in midair and throwing them both. "I mean, I understand revenge on Hinata, but how does DNA perfection come into it?" The first attack hit the wall Kabuto threw up, burrowed into it, and blew it to smithereens. The second, Kabuto barely brought his tail up to block. He hissed in pain as the fiery projectile dug into his limb and unflinchingly brought one arm down with a chakra scalpel to cut the tail off at the base, before hurling the whole thing back at Sasuke. Because I refuse to be rendered irrelevant. I refuse to allow those born with the powers of gods to make jokes out of the rest of us. He spat. Because this is what's fair. Because when you throw an orphaned loner into a society that treats him like trash, you get what you fucking deserve. Sasuke kicked away the tail just before the raisin kunai in it exploded, landing on the ground and being immediately assaulted by writhing tendrils of animated earth from around and beneath him. I actually do get that. He called over, tapping his bracer and pulling out Samahata. You just don't want to be a footnote, right? You're terrified you'll be reduced to a side character. Finally. Groused the sword, as Sasuke swung it at the attacking dirt. Ah, sage chakra. Been a while since I'd gotten a chance to eat some. Samahata tore through the constructs with little difficulty, any life in the material vanishing as the scales rustled and drained the energy out of it. The weapon was hungry, it practically swung itself towards the nearest sources of power. Precisely. Crowed Kabuto. I will be recognized. Everyone in the world will see me, will know my name. But you, Sasuke, he put his hands together. You will not know anything. Sage Art White Rage. A red, spectral dragon tore free from his stomach and hurtled towards Sasuke. Sasuke, getting big ultimate technique vibes, brought his most heavily armored Susanoo variant up, also raising Samahata defensively and preparing for a collision as he tried to use his Sharingan to see what the attack would do. There was no collision. As he watched, the dragon exploded into white light so intense that it made him scream and close his eyes. For the second time in the battle, his sense of his surroundings was gone, not through illusion this time, but through sheer brute force. His eyes burned, his ears rang, thank fuck I already turned those off, and his body shook, and everything was generally super unpleasant. His arms dropped limply to his sides as his knees buckled, his Susanoo disintegrated, and he almost let go of Samahata. Almost. Its tip touched the ground, and its voice echoed in his mind. Can you taste that? He is emitting his sage chakra outwards through the ground, that's how he was animating the stone. I can feel where it's flowing from. I know where he is. Sasuke felt a tug, the sword in his hand almost begging him to move. Swing me, now, and I will strike him down. I can't move, can't think, oh, get over yourself. You're a warrior, Indra. Grit your teeth, grow a pair, and swing. For once, Sasuke didn't have anything to say back. He just roared, muscles burning, trying to force any sort of reaction out of them. It reminded him of trying to move his body under the covers while he was asleep, only instead of can't breathe properly his issue was can't breathe at all, and also every cell in my body is on fire. But if he wanted to get back to his team, he needed to move his arm. So move it he did. Taking a staggering step, he screamed, dragged Samahata along the floor, and swept it upwards. There was a crunch. Across the battlefield, Naruto was in the fucking zone. This was it. Hinata was grabbing more allies to go fight Madara, Sasuke was going with Itachi to fight Kabuto. And he was here fighting Tobi with literally every authority figure in his life. Alexa, play strong and strike. It's grand finale time. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 clones dropped into Saiza behind him, while 2 others flanked him as he charged his opponent. Meters behind him followed Kakashi, Sharingan flashing, and Guy, already using the 7th gate. A few meters behind them, Jiraiya and Tsunade were sprinting up to the battle, having come to assist after dealing with pain. Tobi stood and waited. Get ready to get pummeled. Naruto shouted, concentrating chakra in his palm, planning on getting a little extra beginner's raku to help him finish this off. Mini Bija Bomb. The purple energy coalesced in his palm and "No you," said Tobi. He swung his war fan. The Bija Bomb hit the fan, exploded, and Naruto saw as Tobi reinforced it with something, and then the explosion was blasted backwards, throwing him away and popping the 2 clones, and then deep forest emergence. What? He is wood. The ground beneath them all tore open, branches twisting and growing and splitting them all apart, and Naruto recovered by landing on one, and Tobi was charging at him, but he knew how to deal with this, attack back, so he created another mini bijou bomb and shoved it forwards, because even if it reflected again at least it would give Naruto some space. Tobi didn't reflect it. His Sharingan flashed, and there was a white Susanoo that just tanked the explosion outright. Wait, what? And then Tobi immediately fell right out of the armor, span upside down, landed on the branch above Naruto, and put his hand on Naruto's face. And then Naruto moved to manifest the Kurama avatar, and there was a flash of purple. Naruto awoke in his mindscape, and the Kyuubi was screaming. No! Kurama howled, his giant form disintegrating. A massive black rod had appeared through the roof of the mindscape, and the fox's chakra was being yanked up towards it. Kurama! Naruto shouted, getting up. What's he stabbed a Rinnegan rod into your fucking face? Kurama looked genuinely terrified, eyes wide and darting around. He's using the human and the outer path to pull me straight out of you. Desperately, Naruto jumped up at the offending object, trying to attack it with a Raisin Shuriken, but that got absorbed too. His chakra was practically inseparable from his bijous, though that was rapidly changing as the dark red energy was pulled away from Naruto's blue. Stop him! Kurama begged. Naruto, please, stop him, I don't want to. Everything went dark. It took a few more seconds for Sasuke to regain control of his senses. The first he properly noticed was a pain in his right arm. He was pretty sure he'd torn something during that last attack. Soon after came his sense of direction, helpfully reminding him that he hadn't fallen over this time. Wonderful. And once his hearing and sight came back, oh, that's nasty. Kabuto coughed, blood dripping from his mouth. He was hovering about 2 feet above the floor, being helpfully held aloft by the giant purple sword impaling him through his stomach. And no. Kabuto muttered. Can't die. I'm not to you, I'm not, NGH, perfect, yet Sasuke sighed. God to make you know, I do get it. Less than an hour ago I watched Naruto single-handedly conjure an army about as strong as the whole Shinobi Alliance. He's stupid powerful, dude. I'm pretty sure he's waging a war on the literal embodiment of nihilism. I wasn't kidding when I said he was the main character. Love him to death, but it's kinda scary, you know? How do you cope? Kabuto whispered. How do you stop yourself trying to kill him? Sasuke laughed. What, you think I'm going to turn into an edgy loner and run off to train outside Konoha, just because the Rasengan's stronger than the Chidori? He shook his head. Naruto's my friend. Maybe I sometimes want to kill him when he makes a mess out of my room or does something stupid, but not because I'm afraid he's stronger than me. If I trust anyone with the power to kill me, it's him. Hey, Samahata, can you force this guy out of sage mode? I can drain the Senjutsu chakra before he uses it, yes. Hold on. The unearthly pallor to Kabuto's skin disappeared, as did the eyeliner that seemed to universally constitute sage powers. And besides, Sasuke said aloud, smiling. Sometimes? It's all right to let someone else be in the spotlight. I mean, do I look bitter about it? Sage mode off, Kabuto couldn't tell. Slowly, he opened his eyes and met Sasuke's. No. You seem at peace. Sasuke nodded. Then smirked. Ha, made you look. He hit Kabuto with the strongest Sharingan Jinjutsu he could muster, making him slump, and then booted him off the end of the sword. That was cruel. Samahata told him, sounding delighted about it. He'll heal. And he'll be out for days, at least, so I can come get him later. Better than killing him. Right then, he spun about. Where's the war at? Naruto floated in the darkness. The only sound was his rapid breathing, as he twisted around trying to see anything. He was painfully aware of the fact that Jinchuriki could not survive without their bijou. Kurama? He asked. There was a light from above him and a sound. Click. Okay. Let's hope this works. Hi, Naruto. This is Minato Chakra Fragment II. Not as big as the other one, cause this is much simpler. If you are hearing this, this means that your bijou has been stolen from you. To which I respond, ha. Bitch, you thought. The flash vanished and was replaced by a red glow that slowly rose up around Naruto, relighting the mindscape once again. His feet touched the ground and he looked around, bewildered, as gradually forming into existence next to him was oh, I'm not dead. What? Kurama paused and looked around. Kit, the fuck? Naruto shrugged, helplessly. Kurama looked back down at himself and then blinked. Oh, that sly bastard. That cheeky bastard. What? What happened? Minato. Kurama grinned. Remember when we were talking about where he put the in half of my chakra? Yeah, what Naruto blinked, noticing Kurama's slightly darker color. Oh, no way. It was here. Kurama crowed. The whole time. He just separated it from the rest of me and sealed it deeper inside you. And there you were with your whole, maybe he put it in himself so when he escaped the Reaper's stomach he'd be able to give it to us theory. I thought that would be cool. But it was here. And now that masked fucker's only got the yang half. Wait. Naruto raised a hand, starting to smile. So you're telling me? Kurama nodded and winked. We're still in the fight. Toby ignored the screams of the non-essentials present as he finished draining the last of the Kyuubi chakra. Less than I'd expected. Madara must have just been biggieing him up. Important lesson, kiddo, you're not the only one who knows how to use Beginner's Raku. Toby tooted, casually throwing the corpse off to one side. The corpse fell a good 20 meters to the floor. It landed on its feet. Everyone present gaped as Naruto reached up and yanked the chakra receiver out of his lower face, the damage to his mouth and nose quickly regenerating as the Kyuubi cloak flashed back into existence around him. He looked up at Toby and glared. Okay, what the fuck was that, Naruto? Toby demanded, genuine fury coming through in his voice. No, what did you do? What the fuck, Naruto? I don't even how. Because I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto replied. Fuck you, I can do whatever I want. And then the two clones that had been sat at the back gathering sage chakra popped, and orange flashed into existence around Naruto's eyes, and he blitzed forwards and punched the black rod into Toby's mask so hard it shattered into a dozen pieces. Act 9 Cataclysm. Standing around and talking. Naruto. Hinata screeched, turning to the battlefield eyes wide as oh, no, wait, never mind, he's fine. She coughed and straightened her clothing. Phew, that was worrying. Sorry, continue. Over a century ago Black Zetsu, nothing but a shadowy figure on the wall of the cave, watched in amusement as Madara Uchiha pointed a sword at him. It's been like 20 minutes. How long does he plan to hold that thing out like that? It's not like physical weapons can kill me. How do I know you aren't lying to me? Madara demanded. I cannot lie. Zetsu lied. I am but a manifestation of the Gedomazo's will. I desire only to serve its master. Which is me? Madara asked. Not yet. Zetsu replied, smirk ever present in his voice if not on his face. I take it you have read the tablet, deep within the Uchiha grounds? It was written by the Sage of Six Paths himself. He neglected to mention the part where he had scribbled fake stuff all over said tablet. The true master of the 10 tails is he who wields the Rinnegan. Madara quoted. But there is no 10 tails, and I have never heard of the Rinnegan. I can describe its powers to you, if you would like. Zetsu told him, offhandedly. They are varied and powerful, and I didn't see the need to write them down. In essence, the 10 tails is the true bijou. It was split into the 9-tailed beasts by Hagoromo, to be one day united by someone worthy of them. Someone like you. Slowly, Madara lowered his sword. But if you add up 1 through 9 tails you get 45, yes, I know. It's exponential. Zetsu rolled his eyes. That seems highly unintuitive. You're in a cave on the moon, talking to a shadow spirit, while two factions of white-haired maniacs wage a war with a giant glowing eyeball above you, and you're getting hung up on high school algebra? An explosion from high above punctuated his point, and Madara huffed. Fair enough. Look. Zetsu tried. You have an opportunity here that none before you have ever even come close to. Or rather, many generations had, and Zetsu had just kept fucking it up. He neglected to mention that part. If I do this, Madara asked, I can save the world? When you activate the infinite Tsukuyomi, Zetsu smirked. Nobody will ever have to suffer again. Madara looked down. With a flourish, he sheathed his sword. Very well. How do I obtain the Rinnegan? Yes, finally. It will not be easy. Zetsu told him. Your friend and rival, Hashirama Senju. He is both the key to your victory and the greatest obstacle in your way. You will have to take him inside you, without allowing him to do the same. Oh, no problem then. Madara shrugged. He always lets me take charge in the bedroom. Zetsu blinked and re-evaluated his understanding of modern language. He said. I think there may be a small misunderstanding here. Present-day shards of reinforced ceramic fell through the air, as did the man who had just been wearing them. Toby crashed through 3 of his own summon trees before finally falling on his ass on a large stone outcropping, one of many in the wasteland created by the Bija bomb collision barely a minute prior. He looked up and sighed. Well, shit. Now we have to do everything the hard way. Naruto gave him a once-over. Funny scars on one side of his face, short black hair, yeah, that was it. Other than the Rinnegan and Sharingan, which everyone already knew about, he didn't look all that special. Well. Naruto shrugged. Glad that revelation didn't turn up anything important, Obito? Gasped Kakashi, from his left. Oh, son of a bitch, yeah, fucking congrats, Kakashi. Said someone whose name was Obito, apparently, as he stood up and stretched. Really fucking astute of you. Hey, I wonder who this guy is that Hinata says is scarred on one half of his body. And has the twin Sharingan of the one I have. The one I got from Obito Uchiha. What a coincidence. Guess we'll never know. This is one of the smartest ninja in Konoha, guys. Kakashi looked genuinely shaken. But you're supposed to be dead, yeah, like ninja don't fake die every other Tuesday. Obito pinched the bridge of his nose. My alias was Toby, Kakashi. Toby. Literally, I just took the back of my name and put it in front. Hell, if you'd asked Hinata to genjutsu across to you when she saw my face with the Byakugan, you would have known then. But you didn't think of that either. But hey, I suppose I shouldn't be too surprised. After all, his eyes narrowed. You certainly weren't smart enough to keep Rin alive. Kakashi looked away. Naruto had to shake his head and check he wasn't under a genjutsu atake. Kakashi, Captain Unflappable himself, had just flinched away from an insult. Kakashi? Asked Guy, putting a hand on his friend's shoulder. Mind giving us an update? Right. Yeah. Kakashi seemed to snap out of it, taking a breath. Back in the Third Ninja War, I was on a genin team with Obito and a girl called Rin. Course, even though we were all 12, I was an Umbu Jonin and they were ordinary genin, I was only on the team with them because the Uchiha wanted a guard on their kid. That war being what it was, things went bad. We were under attack, Obito got half his body crushed by falling rock. Doomed, we both knew it. He gave me his Sharingan, I ran off after Rin, and I got Rin killed. He looked up and pointed. None of which explains how the fuck you went from dying under a boulder to chilling with a Rinnegan and would release. I'm Obito Uchiha. Fuck you, I can do whatever I want. Obito replied. Oh. Fair. Kakashi allowed. Okay, better question. Why the fuck are you on the evil side? Because I'm the worst. Obito replied. When that got a bunch of confused looks, he smirked. What, you think I'm gonna tell you the reasons behind my tragic fall to the dark side? If I do that, it'll make it easier for you to talk no Jetsumi, and that's the last thing I need right now. Oh, fuck, this guy's good. Naruto muttered under his breath. Now then, I have to begin the birthing process of a literal cataclysm. Obito cracked his knuckles. So if you'll all excuse me, Naruto held up a hand. Hey, question? Yeah. I'm not going to insult you by implying you actually expect us to do that, he asked, so can you just get on with it and bring out the thing you want us to fight in the meantime? Obito smiled. See, now you're starting to get it. Well done. Guru, get the fuck out here. He snapped his fingers, and a hole in space ripped open. Oh, wow, that's a really good way to sneak things past my senses, Naruto thought, and out was discharged another Zetsu with a swirly face thing that mimicked Tobi's earlier mask, though perhaps it was the other way around. Naruto immediately noticed that it wasn't just a zombie, however. Oh, no. He gulped. Guys? Yamato's in there. Wait, really? Tsunade winced. Wow, that man has just had the worst life. Like the child experiments, and then the brainwashing, and then the kidnapping, and now he's possessed by a walking piece of Play-Doh? Yep. Obito grinned. I borrowed him when Kabuto said he was done. He patted the Zetsu on the shoulder. It stood there, unmoving. I imagine by now you've realized that wood release isn't actually just the combination nature of water and earth. That, in fact, is mud, and is way less cool. Wood release is the manipulation of life itself. And when you start combining that with the other six-path stuff, you get some real fun results. Oh, now you're telling us your plan? Jiraiya asked, skeptically. Evil Overlord Rule 47. If you really want to, it's all right to explain your evil plan after the fact. Obito wagged a finger. We've already used Yamato's wood release to help build a massive Zetsu army from the Outer Path statue, and we've already turned him into a monster, so it's fine to monologue now. He smirked. Especially since it only benefits me to play for time. Guru? Sick M. Guru put his hands together and said in a crackling, broken voice, thousand-armed Buddha. There was a rumbling from underneath them. When it's not Sharingan, it's wood release. Naruto groaned. Everybody move! They scattered, as a giant wooden statue tore up from the ground. Hiruzen and Minato exchanged glances. Two of the most feared and respected ninja in history were being put on the spot by a teenage girl, and neither of them looked very comfortable about it. You first. Hinata addressed the blonde. Naruto's father, master of the Flying Raijin, arguably the strongest Hokage. Though, between Hashirama's sheer godlike power, Tobirama's revolutionary battle strategy and arsenal of forbidden technique innovations, Hiruzen's encyclopedic knowledge of just about every jutsu in existence, and Minato's sealing jutsu and breathtaking speed, there was an argument for all of them being the strongest Hokage. What happened the night the Kyuubi attacked? When Naruto was born? Why weren't you there for him? Minato sighed. Well, the first thing you have to understand is that my relationship with Kushina was kept secret. And I don't just mean pissed, Asuma and Kurenai have been dating on and off since they were teenagers secret, I mean actual S-rank Black Ops secret. The only people who knew were Jiraiya, the Godfather, Hiruzen, we couldn't have hid it from him if we'd tried, my 3 personal guard for security reasons, and well, I suppose my Genin team might have had an inkling, so Kakashi as well. But that was it, and these were people that knew how to keep quiet. In public, me and Kushina both acted frosty towards one another, as if there was some unspoken grudge between us. I pretended I was maybe not having a fling with Mikoto Uchiha, Fugaku was furious, and Kushina pretended she was pining after Marino Ibuki, who everyone knows is a eunuch. Ibuki's a Hinata crushed that train of thought before it could dare to provide her with images. So, what was the point? Why hide it? It's not like you can't both look after yourselves. Because of the Kyuubi. Minato replied. The Uzumaki did the best damn job they could on the seal when they first transferred it into her, and her inheritance of the adamantine chakra certainly helped. But there was a weakness. Naruto. He looked down, fists clenching. It's a common belief that kunoichi make better demon hosts. I don't know whether that's scientific fact, superstition, or some lingering sexism at work, but there is one glaring downside to using a woman to seal a bijou during childbirth: the seal weakens. Someone with aspirations of stealing it could set it free with as little as a kick to the ribs. We were doing everything we could to hide the pregnancy. I even sent her off on a secret mission before she started to show. It wasn't enough. Someone found out. Someone in an orange mask. Hinata muttered to herself, recalling what Naruto had told her. Minato nodded. Broke through every seal and ward we placed around her, released the 9 tails, and controlled it with his Sharingan. I fought him, and if I had any technique other than flying Raijin, he would have killed me. Put a Rasengan into his back and he just shrugged it off. Never seen anything like it. I thought he had to be Madara. You're close, Hinata told him. Her Byakugan had been monitoring the battlefield the entire time. Reading lips at that distance was a pain, but you were the sensei of Kakashi's team, correct? That includes Obito Uchiha. Well, yes, but Minato frowned. Obito? Really? He was good, but not by Uchiha standards, certainly not by mine. And a genin. And I assumed he was dead. Fucking Uchiha, Tobirama muttered, from one side. Always the fucking Uchiha. I assumed Neji Hyuuga was evil. We learn. She shrugged. So did he kill you? No, he ran. Minato replied. Issue is, while I was busy with him, the Kyuubi was going ham on my village. On his way out, Obito, if that's who it was, sent the fox after Kushina. He shook his head, smiling sadly. That woman dying without her bijou, fresh out of childbirth, she was still able to protect Naruto. Restrained the 9 tails with the chakra chains for a critical few seconds. I've always held the Uzumaki in the highest esteem. Hashirama asserted, respectfully. Love those guys. Your wife sounds like she was an exemplary kunoichi, Hokage-sama. High praise coming from you, sir. Thank you. Minato nodded his head to his forebear. His eyes narrowed. I was left with a split-second decision to make. I had some few injutsu that could temporarily restrain the Kyuubi, but nothing can hold bijou indefinitely except the Jinchuriki sealing, and I couldn't do that alone. Even if I could, who would be the host? Trying to hold it in someone unprepared can be disastrous. We all know what happened to the hidden cave village, and Kushina was the last Uzumaki in Konoha. Or, at least, she had been. Of course. You had a perfect Jinchuriki to be right there. Hinata glared. Just lying on the ground, bawling next to his dead mother. Do you think I enjoyed it? Minato asked. His voice was still perfectly calm and smooth, barely even a hint of menace. But she imagined he could retain that tone while slitting someone's throat. Consigning my son to the company of a monster for the rest of his life? Painting a target on his back for whoever had just attacked me, leaving him an orphan? But I had to make the choice that saved the most lives. He sighed, crossing his arms. I used the Reaper Death Seal. Sacrificed my soul. Split the Kyuubi in half, sealed one half deep within him and left the other just touching the surface. Passed off the key to the seal to a toad summon, told it to give it to Jiraiya. The plan well. I can hardly call it a plan. The hope was that its chakra would slowly begin to bleed through once Naruto took up ninja training, that he could learn to harness it, maybe even cooperate with the fox, though that's never been done before. I cut it in half both to weaken it and slow its progress in freeing itself, and in a last-ditch attempt to save Naruto should anyone attempt to steal the upper half. Hinata nodded. Well, actually, turns out that all worked perfectly. Oh, awesome, Gomi. Minato glanced sideways to his predecessor. I also hoped that he would be viewed as a hero by the village, their bulwark against the demon. How'd that one work out? Hiruzen, to his credit, stood tall. He didn't slink away, cough awkwardly, try to make light of the situation or garner sympathy. Ask Hinata. I will answer. So she did. Fists shaking by her sides, she asked the question she'd been meaning to ask since she was 7 years old. Why was Naruto treated like a monster by the village? Why did everyone despise him? Cheat him? Beat him? Why was the bare minimum done to protect him? Why was Jiraiya, his godfather, not there to protect him? Why were you not there? Why was he left alone? Hiruzen looked her in the eye. I believe that you may already know. Have you ever noticed, in the early days, how quick he was to respond to positive reinforcement? He was practically euphoric at the slightest shred of real respect. Hinata agreed, through gritted teeth. Precisely. Hiruzen nodded. It was decided that a life of loneliness and abuse would make him more easily manipulated when the time came to use him. Hinata moved, and her palm was resting on Hiruzen's forehead, and she was suddenly radiating more killing intent than anyone else in the room. He's a person, you sick fuck. She snarled. Hinata Orochimaru warned, looking genuinely afraid. I completely agree. Hiruzen replied, calmly. I pushed for Naruto to be recognized as a hero, to be allowed to wear his father's last name with pride. But after the attack, the people were terrified and grieving. Danzo and his ilk were pulling strings in the background, and as I was retaking the position in my old age, there were many who doubted my suitability as Hokage. I was rebuffed and had to remain silent or risk losing my position. Then you should have pushed harder. Hinata bit out. You're right again. He admitted. There is much I should have done. Most specifically, I should have killed Shimura Danzo long before that night. I should have told the Raikage that I was having none of his pathetic attempts at deception, that he had sent kidnappers into my city, and I had no intention of giving him any sacrifices from the Hyuga clan. I should have told the Uchiha that I knew damn well what they were up to. Publicly. That if they wanted a confrontation they could come and challenge me for my position directly, instead of their cloak and dagger horseshit. Spitting that last word out, he sounded almost as furious as Hinata felt. Then why didn't you? She demanded. Because I was weak. Hiruzen replied, simply. Because Danzo had been my friend since childhood, because I had taught Fugaku and many others like him, because we had a tenuous peace with hidden lightning I didn't want to jeopardize. Because I was unwilling to kill them when there was a chance I could talk no jutsu them instead. And they knew that, and so they were able to get away with what they wanted. He sighed. Make no mistake, Hinata. Being good is hard. When you align yourself with the light, you make yourself appear non-threatening. You refuse to access avenues of victory that your enemies will hurtle down without a second thought, and thus you put yourself at a disadvantage. My aspirations were high, but I was not strong enough to reach them, and I was too blinded by my mercy to take the low road. Instead, I forced others to pick up those burdens. Others like your cousin. Make no mistake, if a clan had to be massacred, I should have gone out there and done it myself. Danzo was weaponizing the Koto Amatsukami. Hinata said. It's possible that I won't try and cry Jinjutsu. Hiruzen snorted. Danzo would never have dared to try that trick on me, he was always acutely aware of how far I could be pushed. I have no excuses, Hinata. Only apologies. She lowered her head. There were tears in her eyes. Do you have any idea what it was like for us? She hissed. How much we hurt. I followed Naruto at least once a week. And sometimes followed you following him. Checked in on Sasuke, too, once in a while. Hiruzen said. I know it was no help, but I made myself see everything that you went through. I deserved worse. If you decide to put me back in the Reaper's stomach, I will not protest. Hinata stood there for almost a full second, which, at the speed they were all conversing, was practically an eternity. Then she shook her head, and pulled her hand away, stepping backwards. No. I'm done with vengeance. And we didn't just pull you all out for a chat. She looked at all of them. We've got 2 incredibly powerful Uchiha to kill. Yes. Tobirama breathed. Orochimaru, go to this location. Hinata tossed a genjutsu of a map at him. The Kage are there. Still alive, but barely. Fix them up, get them back on their feet, get them to the war front. Do I look like a medic, Neen? He gave her an offended look. You're a genius who's doctorate level in at least 5 different subjects. You have would release Senjutsu, the second biggest jutsu arsenal in this room, and your arms back. She deadpanned. I'm sure you'll manage. Humph, fine. Ego satiated, he vanished. As for the rest of you, she turned to the Hokage. I'm fully aware that I'm in no position to give you orders, my chances aren't super against any one of you in a straight fight. But, the fighting's sort of that way. She pointed. You're looking for the explosions and the giant monsters. Do what you want, I guess. Hashirama smiled in a very Naruto-like way. Well, I appreciate the freedom. Fellow Hokage? Fuck yeah, I want to kill some Uchiha. If my village is in danger, I will always rise to protect it. Damn right, I'm down. Obito's my student, my problem. Then let's do this. Hashirama cracked his knuckles. I hereby officially reform Big Dick Squad. There was a pause, in which Tobirama slammed his palm into his face. Brother. Why? If they're on my team, they're on Big Dick Squad. Them's the rules. You've been doing this since the Warring States period, come on, bro to battle. 3 of the Hokage vanished from the room. Minato, however, paused, turning to stare at Hinata for a long moment. Did I miss something? She asked. HM? Oh, no, it's just he chuckled. It's good to see someone so concerned for my son's well-being. If I don't get outraged on his behalf, who will? Certainly not him. Hinata smiled. None of us deserve him. Hiruzen may have been too weak to pull off the high road, but I assure you Naruto is not. Oh, fuck, speaking of his well-being, we'd better get moving. What's wrong? Minato asked. We took too long. Hinata sighed, summoning the Vishnu and its wings. Our 2 enemies have come together. The 10 Tails roared. Perhaps it was wrong to call it such, it wasn't fully manifested yet, but it would clearly be wrong to call it the Gedomazo anymore. With the Kyubi chakra, half of it, at least, the statue was now moving. It was crying out, growing, changing. It was alive. Behind Obito, there was a series of explosions as the 1,000-armed Buddha continued to wreak havoc upon the Konoha ninja, and he sighed. Come on, hurry up, he muttered to himself. There were 3 different reasons he could have been saying that, and one of those possibilities came first. With a thunk, Madara Uchiha's boots dropped onto the stone behind him. Sup, boss. Good to finally meet you. How are the Kage? Obito asked, not looking up. Not very well, at the moment. Obito could feel the killing intent radiating from the man. What's going on, Obito? Yes, thanks, it is good to see me too, how nice of you to say. Obito straightened, and turned to face the man who owned him. I had to improvise. There was a problem. Let me guess. Madara scowled. Were you related to the problem? Not biologically, nor carnally, but we were sorta having a little fling. Secret rendezvous in caves, plans for world domination, cut the nonsense. Madara warned him. Edo Tensei rather than Rinne Tensei. An incomplete 10 tails. You're only wielding 1 Rinnegan. What's going on? Calm down. Obito rolled his eyes. Curb your suspicion. It's not like I could ever betray you. He turned back to the Jubi. A guy had already rezzed you with the Edo Tensei before I got the Rinnegan. He's dead now, don't worry. I figured I'd use the opportunity and work with him, since I was up against the entire damn planet. You could have resurrected me anyway. I could have. Then why haven't you? Obito bit back the retort, and the killing intent that would come with it that might get him murdered. Instead, he focused on forming a reply that would convince the genius demigod. If he orders me to cast the Rinne Tensei right now, I'll have to obey. Fuck that. Risk management. He said, simply. These people are dangerous, even to people like me and you. Particularly the Uzumaki boy, he's developing new powers practically every second, and when I ripped half a bijou out of him he was just fine. If I'd rezzed you before the war you'd have been alone against the world, mortal, and still down 2 bijou. If I res you now, you're alone against the entire world, mortal, with no bijou at all, to draw upon. He pointed back to the 10 tails. We have less than a minute before that thing matures. I don't want to risk blowing all this before that happens. Your proposition? Madara asked, showing no inclination for or against. Obito gestured back the other way, at Naruto Uzumaki. We kill his ass, put the rest of the Kyuubi where it belongs, and kill as many of them as possible while you can still fight risk-free. Then we'd sick the 10 tails on anyone left. I tell you where I put the other Rinnegan, res you with Rinne Tensei, you mantle the Jubi, GG. Madara stood there for a full second. Then said fine. What are we waiting for? Obito smiled a brittle smile, relieved. Nothing. Now we'd bad news, gentlemen. Obito froze as the sickening, lazy voice came from behind him, sounding for all intents and purposes like it was right in his ear. Turning, he saw his shadow, stretching out behind him in the dim light of the late evening. There was a grin and 2 yellow eyes floating in the darkness. Zetsu. He grit out. I gave you a job. Master. Black Zetsu acknowledged, looking at Madara, then Pawn. At Obito, his smirk widening. You did, but I was bored and you were in trouble. Yes, I was following the Byakugan girl as you instructed. Therein arose the problem. She has used the Edo Tensei to resurrect the first 4 Hokage. They are on their way now. What? Obito hissed out loud. That isn't. He paused, and sucked in a breath. Rule 1 of being a ninja, never assume anything is impossible. He turned to Madara. See why I was being cautious? Oh, no, it was a wise decision. Madara flexed his shoulders. I suppose that the fools and weaklings I fought before were warm-up enough for some real Kage. Prepare yourself. Preparing. Obito tossed over Madara's war fan, which he caught without looking back, before asking, right, question. If I'm going to be fighting Hashirama, can you tell me how to recognize his wood clones? Madara tensed. That won't be necessary. I will deal with him myself. Yeah, but the whole duplicating himself business will make it pretty hard for you to isolate him. Obito pointed out. They say you were the only one who could ever tell his clones apart from the real him. We had the same dojutsu, I should be able to do it too. We're playing it safe, right? Madara scowled. He looked away, and muttered something. Obito tilted his head. What? SHCKBR. The legendary Uchiha repeated, slightly louder. Come again? He makes his dick bigger. Madara snapped, glaring at nothing in particular. If Edo Tensei summons could blush, he probably would be. Obito stared. Excuse me? It's easy enough to tell if he's standing next to one, the bull. It's visible, through the armor. Every word seemed to be physically painful for Madara to say. When he creates the clones, he makes them exactly identical to him, except their dicks are a few inches bigger. But why? Obito asked, genuinely confused. Because he was a fucking idiot. Madara snarled. He could make them completely identical to him if he wanted, but no. Deliberately weakening himself for the sake of a joke, it was the kind of thing he always did, and I despised it. Things like stopping in the middle of the fight to crack a joke, wasting time shouting overly long jutsu names. He just made a joke out of everything he did. Obito, through great effort, was able to stop himself laughing. I was only able to get him to take the fight seriously once in his entire life. Madara gripped the war fan so tightly Obito was worried he might snap it. And that was on the day he killed me. There was a very dramatic pause. Obito nodded. Then said, surely in order to have a frame of reference to notice that you'd have had to, actually see as we're moving on now. Close off, go and fight, Obito. Obito obeyed. Focus. Naruto. Right, sorry. Naruto summoned another 5 shadow clones, as the set he had defending his teammates had all gotten themselves popped. A small part of him was very amused that his teammates included his 2 senseis, the most fearsome taijutsu specialist in Konoha, and the current Hokage, and that he was currently the one pulling all the weight in the fight. That part of him was overwhelmed by the more pressing Hagoromo's left testicle, Yamato, since when could you do this? The Buddha had 1,000 arms, with which it would slap the shit out of anyone that got close, and 5 heads, which were constantly spewing out blasts of all 5 elements, and it was almost as big as his Kyuubi transformation. Yamato did not have the chakra nor the affinities to do this, which meant that whatever strange thing was attached to him, it was powering him up. Can the other Zetsu do this? How the no, focus, fight it now, theorize later. I think I can take it. He shouted. If I can Rasengan barrage it, it'll go down, but I'll need y'all to distract the heads. But, damn it, we need to get past it, not kill it. This is taking too long. He could feel the chakra emanating off the Gedomazo. Or more appropriately, the thing that it had become. For the first time in maybe ever, he was fighting something with a bigger chakra dick than him. No, I'm not concerned by that. Not at all. Want to activate the avatar again? Kurama offered. I'm worried they'll just pull me out, or find a way to get in. Power Ranger effect, it's great against big things and crowds, not so great against powerful little things. And, yeah, there's Obito coming back to fight. We still have Sage Mode, right? Only for so long. I'll set more clones running to absorb some more chakra. The situation was rapidly approaching dangerous levels of hopeless. Naruto jumped in front of a blast of fire aimed at a recovering Tsunade, expanding a chakra hand from his cloak. Hey, I can do that in small mode now, to catch it. It slammed into him and he grimaced, sliding back along the ground, then looked up in fear as about 20 of the Buddha's hands curled into fists, streaking downwards towards him and making him flinch. This is gonna hurt. There was an explosion, and a notable absence of an impact. Naruto opened his eyes to see a flash of pink hair, and a hailstorm of wooden splinters being blasted away from him. Sakura Haruno turned around, shaking out her fist, and gave him a flat look. Honestly, I'd hoped you'd have become at least a little less of a dumbass. She told him. The seal on her forehead matched Haku's and Tsunade's, fully matured. How many times do we have to tell you you don't have to do this alone before it gets through your thick skull? Naruto gave her a relieved grin. Well, I was too dumb to notice you coming up behind me, so he stopped, blinked, and turned around, as he started actually using those sage Kyuubi senses to focus on things other than the immediate threats. What he saw was tens of thousands of ninja charging in from the wasteland behind him. Ino, Shika, Cho, Tenten, Lee, Darui, everyone. Because of course they were. Sasuke, I could kiss you. Naruto breathed, before breaking out into laughter. The Zetsu, alone, weren't really that strong. When all the reanimated ninja vanished, and with Naruto's clones assisting, clearing up the remnants of the army would have been a piece of cake. And now, they were all here. Kyuubi? I have a crazy idea. Oh, Sage. What now? Naruto summoned a few dozen clones, and sent them out to meet the approaching reinforcements. Then he turned to his savior, smirking. Hey, Sakura. Speaking of not doing this all by myself. Wanna hold hands? Her eyes narrowed. What kind of question, just do it. And that goes for all of you. Backing out of range of the Buddha, with Obito watching in amusement from atop it, Naruto linked himself with Sakura, Tsunade, Jiraiya, Kakashi and Guy. Further back, his clones started doing the same thing with every ninja they could reach. Alright, guys. Fair warning, I have no idea if this is going to work. He closed his eyes. How much chakra we got left? Just switch to the untapped in half, remember? We have chakra for days. Chakra for days? Chakra for days. Then let's use it. Remember how you said you could share it freely between the shadow clones? Oh, you are crazy. No more complaining, Hive simplified. Weaker red aura sprang up around him. Then he let it spread across to Sakura, and Tsunade, and all the others, as his clones began to do the exact same thing with the rest of the Shinobi Alliance. There wasn't one ninja in 10 that didn't gasp as the Bija chakra coursed into their system. Holy, Sakura muttered. Fucking Jiraiya breathed. Shit. Tsunade exclaimed, as Naruto amped literally everyone in the alliance with a one-tail cloak, buffing their chakra, speed and strength by about twice what the average ninja had, with a little extra for the people he knew personally. All right, assholes. Kurama roared in all their heads. Hope that's enough stimulation for you all to get it up. Who's ready for round 2? Why does he have to phrase it like that? Sakura groaned. We have 4 targets, the Buddha, Obito, Madara, and the 10 tails. The last one is the primary objective, the first 3 are defending it, and the second 2 will kill anyone who wasn't Kage level before the Amp. Think you can distract Woody for us so we can get in there and do our jobs? There was a roar of approval from the army, who began running forwards. That's what I thought. Let's do this, losers. Naruto called out. For Konoha. For the whole damn shinobi world. For freedom. This is the most youthful thing I've ever seen. Guy was literally crying. I regret so many of the choices I have made. Obito sighed. Madara? Come help me with this? Madara rolled his eyes and calmly walked forwards. Who's killing whom? Over a century ago. Madara was vaguely aware that the land he stood in was known as Wild Run Plains. The Inuzuka tenuously owned it, and used it to train their pack tactics sometimes. It had been a wide, open field, with a wide, lazy river winding through the middle of it down towards the coastline. It certainly wasn't that anymore. Stones still crashed down from the newly formed cliffs, and water splashed up as Madara walked. The valley they were in was slowly filling up with water as the river above, now with a brand new waterfall, continued to flow. There would probably be a lake here in the next few days. Hashirama Senju knelt in the puddles, with a katana, no dachi, and war scythe stabbing into and through his body, pinning him to the ground in various places. The glow of his chakra, usually the brightest thing around, was now so dim Madara's Sharingan could barely pick it out. If Hashirama had been anyone else, he'd already be dead. As was, if someone didn't finish him in the next few minutes, he'd probably pull out all the offending implements and walk back to the village like it was no big deal. He coughed. What the fuck, Madara? Madara narrowed his eyes and threw a kunai into the man's chest. Ow, fucking hell! Hashirama hissed. That wasn't me memeing, asshole, I'm serious. Why the fuck did you attack the Kyuubi? Said Bijou rumbled to itself softly. It was stood locked in place some distance behind them, still under Madara's control. Said Uchiha rolled his eyes. Oh, come on, why should you care? It was a threat. Which was, in fact, the reason he'd enslaved it. His plan required the use of the Bijou, yes, but he'd only gotten the thing because he knew, as much as he despised to admit it, that he couldn't match Hashirama without its power. He'd hoped to be wrong, but no, Hashirama's 10,000 armed Buddha had been able to throw hands with a perfect Susanoo-clad 9 tails, tearing the landscape apart almost as an afterthought. It had been exhilarating to finally witness his friend truly stretch his power. Exhilarating and terrifying. He was an innocent. Hashirama shot back. Sure, he's cranky, but we had a deal. He wouldn't have hurt anyone if we'd just left him alone. And now the Uzumaki are going to have to trap him in. Bored, Madara threw another kunai into his stomach. Ow! Stop fucking doing that. Hashirama glared up at his partner. Why are you doing this? We have our village, we have peace. As if this peace will last. Madara snorted derisively. Neither of us are immortal, and the other villages are hungry, angry at how much power we hold over them. A war will break out, mark my words. Yeah, and it'll happen sooner now. Hashirama tried to gesture, but struggled to even lift his arm. You have become the violence you claim to want to eradicate. You can't wish for peace and then slap away every olive branch anyone offers. Your olive branches aren't enough. They never have been. Madara snarled. You try to convince people with your petty kindnesses, shying away from doing what is truly necessary. Madara, please. Hashirama begged, pain in his eyes. Don't do this. You have everything you ever wanted, are you not satisfied? Am I not enough? Madara looked down on him, impassively. You were never enough. He said, simply. With his Sharingan active, he was able to see the exact moment when Hashirama gave up on him. When the Senju's shocked expression gave way to hard eyes and a thin mouth, and his muscles began to strain at his restraints, remaining chakra flaring as he prepared to continue the fight, to the death if necessary. It was almost enough to break Madara. Almost. But he fixed his goal in mind, and made himself walk forwards, marshalling chakra about his right hand until a blue-purple flame appeared. It was difficult to manifest a lion fist without the Hyuga's unique methods of outputting chakra from their tenketsu, but this bootleg version would be more than enough for his purposes. Apparently, he only needed a little of Hashirama's chakra for the plan to work. He stopped in front of his friend and rival, raised the hand, and a fist erupted from his chest. His eyes widened as the Hashirama in front of him ceased moving, turning to wood, as it was covered in his blood and guts. Massive loss of blood and body mass. Heart currently splattered all over that rock. Brain death in approximately 20 seconds. With his eyes darted down to his target's crotch, because this couldn't be, he'd known it wasn't a wood clone because oh. Madara chuckled, coughing up blood and looking over his shoulder. I knew I could make you really try if I just pushed you far enough, congratulations. Hashirama's voice was like ice. And now you've pushed too far. Madara sagged. And then he tore his own katana out of the wood clone with his left hand, his right gripping onto Hashirama's limb still sticking out of his own breast. He swung. There was another spray of blood, and Hashirama reeled, his intact arm grabbing the stump at his other arm's elbow. He took one step backwards, growled, and twisted into a spinning kick that made a sonic boom as it cracked into Madara's cheek. The Uchiha felt the snap, and then everything went numb. Somewhere out of sight, suddenly free from his control, the Kyuubi roared. Neck broken, spine severed. Brain death in approximately 3 milliseconds. But for a shinobi, that was still time. Zetsu? He thought. I'm here, said the voice, seeming to come from just behind his ear. You have failed. No. Not yet. Oh. Madara's hand, still glowing with purple chakra, gripped harder around Hashirama's severed arm, buried in his chest. Excruciatingly slowly, as he collapsed, it began to drain away the residual chakra in the limb. And Madara explained his plan. Curious, said Black Zetsu, as time ticked down, and why shouldn't I just give up on you here? Madara's head was slowly approaching the ground. His eyes narrowed. Because I will allow absolutely nothing to stand in my way. There was a brief moment. I believe you, said Black Zetsu. And then he died. Years later, the resting place of Madara Uchiha, and, not 2 meters to his left, Hashirama Senju, was always shrouded in darkness at this time of night. Darker still, for a shadow sat atop his coffin, the lid having been casually opened and dropped to one side. Black Zetsu daydreamed, as he slowly fed chakra into the dead man's body. Nothing that could spark neurons in the Uchiha's brain, nor call his soul back from the Pure Lands, such things were far beyond the creature's scope. But certain biological processes, stimulated by new energy, were able to continue. Zetsu had done this all night, every night, for 916 days. Not for the first time, he wished that the man had taken just a few more seconds before kicking the bucket. But he was patient. Oh, above everything else, he was patient. This night in particular, something very different happened. Zetsu was jolted out of his reverie by a shudder that spread across Madara's whole body, even in his death, muscles spasming in response to a sudden change. Hardly daring to hope, the shadowy figure reached down with what little physical form he could manifest, and drew apart one of the Uchiha's eyelids. He was met with the briefest flash of purple swirls, before the eye returned to its ordinary white sclera and black pupil. Finally. After all these years, Zetsu threw back his head and laughed. It risked alerting the ninja guarding the mausoleum, but he couldn't bring himself to care. He had done it. Oh, he would need to find a host, of course, and that would be tricky. A ninja with the constitution to wield the Rinnegan without being killed by it. They would have to be a young child, to give them time to adapt to the eyes, and vice versa. That implied the child of a prominent clan. The Uzumaki would be his first pick, but naturally he couldn't just sneak the eyes into any one of them. Intensely family-oriented, as were most clans, and they would hardly be willing to simply stand by if one of their members suddenly developed such a rare new power. An orphan, then? But bloodlines were never simply left alone. Orphans would be scooped up. No, this would have to be a child born out of chaos. Perhaps I could arrange for something remiss to happen in Uzushigakure. It did not matter. 10 years, 100, 1,000. There would eventually be just the right candidate to wield the Rinnegan. And Black Zetsu would be right there when they did. Because he was patient. Oh, above everything else, he was patient. Present-day Naruto flipped above the head of the Buddha statue and almost died immediately. "Can you quit with that crap?" he shouted, as one of his clones substituted with him and was promptly consumed by Obito's Preta path, and then he darted up again and swung a kick at the guy. Obito phased, and Naruto went right through him, and the Uchiha was able to get a grip on the back of his head before Guy flew in with his own kick, causing Obito to phase out again and Naruto to be released. Behind them, a war was raging, tens of thousands of ninja all fighting against the giant Buddha statue, and the damn thing was doing a really good job, with only a few of the elite able to get past. Obito reached an arm out towards Naruto and, from his fingers, launched a storm of black-purple chains. More Rinnegan powers? There are way too many of those. Kurama told him. This is what the statue used to grapple the bijou, remember? Oh, he can just shoot that out of his hand now? Fortunately, Naruto didn't have to worry about evading them. Jiraiya jumped up above them and hurled down some earth-release sludge that knocked the chains off course. This left Naruto free to get a bead on the Ten-Tails statue? Whatever, and generate the biggest Rasengan he could on short notice, fueling it up with Senjutsu and throwing it through the air. It was caught by Madara Uchiha. Naruto hit the floor and gulped, as Madara used his own Preta path to absorb the technique before it could reach its target. "Hello again," said the particularly bored-looking zombie. "I must confess, I was surprised when I finally landed a good hit on you back with the Kage and found out it was a clone. I take it you're the real one now?" He tilted his head, thoughtfully. "Yes, I think so. You have enough chakra to split among lots of yourself, but sage chakra will be a much more precious resource to you. If you made more than a few clones now, you'd be kicked out of sage mode, and you wouldn't waste both that and such a powerful Kyuubi cloak on a clone. Well, you should. That would be an excellent deception if you could pull it off, but you wouldn't have." Naruto grit his teeth. This was, technically, his second time tangoing with the man, and after the first time he was genuinely afraid. "The Kage. If you, they're all alive," Madara told him, which made him make a confused face. "Really? That sounds like an unnecessary risk for you to take." "It would be, if they had the capacity to become a threat." Madara held out a hand. "I am a gracious god. Die now, and nobody else has to." "Did you just call yourself a god unironically?" "Oh my lord, I thought I had a big ego," was what Naruto said, but internally he was shitting bricks. "Okay, think. He can catch anything we try to throw at the 10 statue tails, and I'm pretty sure he's still faster than me. How do we get through to it?" Which was when he remembered a fairly innocuous moment a few months back when he hadn't quite killed a member of the Akatsuki. "Kakashi," he thought, letting the Kyuubi carry his thoughts to the cloak his sensei was wearing. "Your Kamui thing. It's a line of sight, no travel time insta-kill, right? Kakashi, busy fighting Obito with the rest of the gang, fought back the Ten Tails? But there's no way I can take out something that big chakra is not an issue. Naruto interrupted. Can it be done? I think so. Came the hesitant response. Wow, you sound way less cocky in your head. All right then, link up with me. Naruto threw a multi-shadow shuriken at Madara as a distraction, and jumped backwards, reaching out to grab Kakashi's hand. The Jonin's chakra cloak flared tenfold, and his eyes flashed. Obito, previously beating up Tsunade, said shit. They've thought of it. He immediately disengaged, running straight towards Kakashi, who was still charging his attack. Naruto flung another Raisin Shuriken at him as a deterrent, but he was still intangible, and as he ran, ignoring everything that came in his way, he shouted, "Get Naruto in the statue. I'm res-seeing you the moment I'm out." Towards Madara. The undead nodded once. Then Obito's shoulder charged Kakashi, suddenly tangible, shoving him off course and causing the rip in spacetime that had been building around the Ten Tails to instead tear a giant hole in the empty space next to it. And then there was another ripple, and Kakashi and Obito both vanished, leaving Naruto to stagger away with his hand empty. There was a pause. Naruto's eyes dragged over to Madara, and he gave a nervous smile. We've got you outnumbered? Multi-would clone jutsu. Madara replied. Oh motherfucker. Kakashi disentangled himself and kicked Obito away, crashing down onto the strange floor of what in the ever-loving hell is this? The Kamui dimension stretched out around him. Flat, seemingly endless, composed of nothing but meter-square cubes of stone. Some distance away, there was a moderate-sized crater in the floor, and the remnants of a sand castle. He'd glimpsed the world, once or twice, in the tear between worlds created when practicing his Mangekyo technique. But never like this. Let me guess. He asked, as Obito landed in front of him. This is where you go to jerk off to Jiraiya's books without being judged. Okay, for once in your life, shut the fuck up. Obito held out a hand. Listen to me. I'm on your side, and we can win this, but only if you do something very specific very fucking fast. And then he charged forwards with a kunai in his hand. Excuse me? Kakashi replied, drawing his own knife and parrying. You wait, you're on our side? Yeah, obviously. Obito hissed. But why are you mind control? Or rather, body control. The Uchiha explained. With one hand, he tapped his breast. On my heart. Same shit Sasori had on Kabuto. Same shit they had on Rin. Bullshit. Kakashi shot back, angrily. You expect me to believe I didn't keep trying kill Minato or escape with the Kyuubi the night I attacked Konoha? Obito started, still attacking. I delayed any further attacks for over 12 years. I counseled Nagato to delay even longer than that. I manipulated the Mizukage Yagura to stop him attacking Konoha, and made him so obviously evil they'd have to assassinate him. If Zabuza hadn't fucked up, the Bloody Mist wouldn't have lasted more than 5 years. Yagura was planning to stop Danzo from taking over the world dozens of times. I didn't kill Hinata when she killed Deidara. I didn't kill Naruto at the Kage Summit. You said you were waiting to draw out Killer Bee. Yeah, that was the excuse. Kakashi kicked Obito in the chest and paused. Huh. Wait, yeah, that would have been a really stupid thing to do. We were all weak from fighting, and we planned to hide Bee away anyway. Yeah, no shit. Obito shouted, clearly very annoyed. And then I've managed to not kill any of you all war, and, most damningly, I've failed to kill you now even though we both know I'm leagues more powerful than you. Kakashi blocked a great fireball with an earth wall, and thought about it. Then he said, oh my god, you are still a good guy. Yeah. Thank you. Obito shouted. But I thought after I killed Rin motherfucker I had the Sharingan on. I saw her literally asking for it. I'm pissed, sure, but I'm not gonna 180 on my Morales and try and doom the world. Obito literally fought Kakashi off with one hand while he used the other to pinch the bridge of his nose. Look, I'm telling you all this because I'm finally away from Madara and Black Zetsu, who are the ones who can give me direct orders I have to obey, and, funny thing, they are trying to doom the world. Kakashi shook his head. Fuck. What? Any more problems? No, it's just the albino couldn't help but laugh. It's good to see you again. Obito grinned. Yeah, likewise. Okay, listen up, I need to become the Jinchuriki of the 10 Tails. Kakashi's eyes widened. Okay, now I have a problem. I figured you would, but listen very closely. Obito tossed his kunai, which Kakashi dodged, and manifested a Rinnegan rod in his hand instead. Madara is out there right now. He's got a bazillion powers, and he regenerates from everything. He's already demonstrated against the Kage that he can escape from any sealing jutsu you throw at him. The only thing you have that might work is the Reaper Death Seal, but nobody's strong enough to use that on him except maybe Naruto, who doesn't even know it. Madara can and will kill your entire army man by man if he has to. And hey, speaking of Naruto, by now, he's fucking dead, and the 10 Tails is gonna be born completed any second. We're fucked. Kakashi felt a stab of pain at the thought of his student. And your plan helps how? Black Zetsu loves to talk. Obito chuckled. The 10 Tails Jinchuriki gets something called Yin-Yang Release, and that comes with a power called the Truth-Seeking Orbs. They punch through anything, and most importantly, they stop any kind of regeneration. If I mantle the Jubi, I'll be strong enough to beat Madara, and have more than enough powers to kill him properly. Should be able to kill Zetsu in the bargain too. And when he's dead? And you're a god among men? Kakashi asked. Obito's expression turned grim. Then I use the Rinne Tensei. I'm bringing Rin back, and if I can, everyone who's died in this war along with her. And then I'll be dead, and this world will finally be rid of all our bullshit. He met Kakashi's eyes. I'll even prioritize your kitties if you want. But trying to become the 10 Tails is something I've been expressly forbidden to do, so none of that's going to happen unless you can punch the fucker out of my heart right now. Kakashi thought about it. Nodded. This is a terrible idea. Fuck it, Alexa, play You Give Love a Bad Name. I don't get it. Don't worry about it, just get your ass over here. Naruto was not feeling very cash money at the moment. Hey, trying to deal with someone who creates a bunch of duplicates is a massive pain. He shouted, at nobody in particular. Oh, really? Tsunade shouted back. Is it annoying to deal with people who abuse clones, Naruto Uzumaki? He ignored her, instead jumping up to punch one of the wood clones in its Susanoo's face. That staggered the tower-sized avatar, but didn't shatter it, so Naruto landed on the floor and stretched out with his chakra chains, wrapping around one foot and tugging. The behemoth fell, and another Naruto clone jumped in underneath it, holding up a raisin shuriken. The wood clone impaled itself on the technique as it crashed down, and dissolved into so much plant matter. The real Madara, waiting by the Jubi, made another one, and it moved to join the fight. This isn't working. Jiraiya stated the bloody obvious, preoccupied with his own opponents. Each of them, at any given moment, was fighting at least two at once. He's just screwing with us. Naruto growled. And we can't exactly whittle his chakra down, he has as much as he needs. I'll try and break through the clones. Be ready to capitalize. If you can disintegrate him, I can use my chains to keep him that way, at least until Kakashi comes back. You think we can just trap him wherever Kamui sends stuff? Will that work? I'm accepting better ideas? Nobody gave one, so Naruto narrowed his eyes and focused. The next Susanoo-clad clone to attack him also got punched in the face. But this time, the fist was bigger than its head. Naruto's Kyuubi avatar roared, towering over its opponents and knocking them left and right with abandon. He bit down on one, swung it about in his jaws until it began to fall apart, and swung the remnants at another, before spinning and batting four of them away with his tails. They went flying, and when he turned back, there was a Bija bomb charging in his mouth. The projectile engulfed the squad of clones in fire. He didn't bother checking their condition, charging straight towards the real Madara with every intention of pummeling him the dirt. Madara snorted and flashed blue. Oh, come on. I was really hoping I'd just messed up the size estimation that is his Susanoo. Tsunade looked up at the weapon that had decimated the not-quite-5 Kage. And then she looked higher and higher and higher. Okay, trying to get a good sense of scale can be pretty hard for these things, but imagine the Kyuubi, right? Really big. About as high as the cliffs of Konoha while on 4 legs. Well, that's what Naruto's avatar was doing now, and he barely came higher than this Megazord-looking motherfucker's knees. He craned his neck upwards and fired off another Bija bomb towards its head, but Madara just pulled up his Susanoo's sword and unsheathed about a kilometer of it, deflecting the projectile away. Then he resheathed it and literally bitch-slapped the Kyuubi's face, knocking it to the ground. Kurama howled in rage, and Naruto was doing something similar, but as they tried to get up, Madara grabbed the fox by the throat and lifted it up to his eye level. Which, since he was floating in the middle of the Susanoo's head, meant that Naruto was literally dangling miles above the ground. Hey! I can see my house from here. Naruto reacted, pretty much instinctively. Madara smiled, his other hand on his sword's hilt. Then he brought the hand up, punched right through the heart of the golden avatar, and grabbed Naruto. The Uzumaki gasped as he was crushed on all sides, and, sick of this happening, he was yanked straight out of the fox shell. And then, still smiling, Madara pulled the arm back and threw him across the battlefield. The acceleration broke most of the bones in his body and concussed him. Kurama healed that easily enough, which left him fully cognizant of the fact that he was going on a trip, like a fucking rocket ship, flying through the sky, Little Einstein style. The stars were beautiful tonight, and he was moving at a hell of a pace, and with the ground so far below, he could see everything going on below him, lights twinkling from the attacks of tiny little ninja all the way on the floor. It was really kind of fun, actually. Guess who came along to ruin it? A barrage of wire flew up towards him, wrapping around his midriff. He slowed, then stopped, as the wire groaned under his momentum, and then he found himself being yanked backwards and down. His senses told him exactly what was going on, but he just sighed and let himself go limp as he slammed into a dark figure and was caught by a strong pair of arms. Well damn. Grinned Sasuke Uchiha. Looks like you just fell for me. You wug. Drop me. Naruto rolled his eyes. Sasuke acquiesced, and they both bumped fists, then immediately began running back to the battle. What the hell took you so long? Naruto demanded. Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't winning the entire war quick enough for you? His teammate shot back. Considering what we've still got to deal with? Yeah. Well, excuse the heck out of me. You're lucky I showed up now, I have no idea how he hasn't killed you yet. Sasuke pointed as they ran, to where Madara's Susanoo still dwarfed everything else in the landscape. Yeah, Naruto frowned, touching his midriff and the suspicious absence of giant sword buried in it. That's a really good point. Why didn't he kill me? Winning a fight against an opponent who was trying to lose really should not have been so difficult. Obito supposed he shouldn't be so hard on his teammate. The merger he'd done with a white Zetsu had drastically improved his body's speed and strength. Combine that with the Rinnegan's link to the statue of the outer path, that was even now flooding his body with Bija chakra, and the visual improvement of the Rinnegan itself. It was no wonder his body was able to keep up with Kakashi, even moving on autopilot as it was. Fight the Leaf Ninja. The seal told him. Defend the Rinnegan. Revive Madara. Shut it. He said back. I'm the best Jinjutsu expert in the world, and you can fucking tell Itachi I said that. Nobody controls me. Fortunately, Kakashi was able to come in clutch. Obito kicked the copy ninja up, making him somersault behind his own stone wall, before immediately smashing back through said wall in a hail of rocks. The hail was enough of an excuse for Obito to briefly close his eyes, but he'd glimpsed Kakashi's previous position before doing so, and the self-preservation control forced him to bring one arm up to block a kunai to his face. You dumbass. He shouted at the now totally exposed ninja, who launched a Chidori with his other hand. Obito brought his own left hand up and jabbed forwards with a Rinnegan rod, the chakra-absorbing material punching right through the center of the lightning blade and into Kakashi's palm. Kakashi popped. "Oh, you sly bastard, I didn't even see that coming." The lightning clone exploded, electricity coursing through Obito's body and making him briefly spasm. While he did so, the real Kakashi, the one who had stayed hidden behind the wall, charged up in front of him with another Chidori. The seal inside him, which had spent years trying desperately to manipulate Obito, finally found itself insufficient to stop his self-destructive tendencies. The Chidori blew a hole straight through his heart. Obito blinked as the mind control was released and said, "Yo, holy shit." Then he gasped, both in pain and at the presence in his mind finally being gone. Oh, fucking finally. This better have been worth it. Kakashi panted, clearly exhausted. "I never thought killing my teammates would be something I'd come to get sick of." Heh. "Oh, it was worth it." Obito looked up at him and grinned. "You always were so gullible, weren't you?" Kakashi froze. And then Obito snorted and said, "Ha. Fucking got you there, didn't I? Nah, chill, I'm still a good guy, let's do this." He grabbed Kakashi's arm and space warped around them. Obito immediately booted Kakashi away the moment they entered the world, before landing, in a heap. Come on, he had no heart, nobody who isn't Naruto or Hashirama can survive that, on top of the raging 10 tails. From its movement, it was practically ready. Perfect. "Hey! Limp dick!" he shouted. Madara, up in his perfect Susanoo, turned around to see him, and his eyes widened. Obito grinned. "I fucking win, bitch." "No!" Madara unsheathed his sword and swung it downwards, but 6 paths. 10 tails coffin seal. He was too late. The blade was repulsed by an explosion of force outwards from the beast, and Obito screamed. Energy tore into his body, it felt like every cell inside him was on fire, putting the suffering the Susanoo had caused to shame. The creature beneath him began to buckle and shrink as its very being was pulled up through his hands and into his body. It was terrifying, it was rapturous, it was more power than he'd ever felt in his life, it was wrong. He looked up, past Madara. There, in the distance, he could see Naruto approaching. A very alive-looking Naruto. "You," he gasped. "You didn't seal the rest of the QB?" "No, I did not." Madara sighed. "You really need to do a better job of hiding your emotions. You are obviously going to betray me, and frankly I don't trust Zetsu to do anything right." There was an outraged "hey" from some shadow or another. "And since my Rinnegan isn't real, and I'm dead, I couldn't absorb the 10 tails before you did. Fortunately, all I had to do to stop you was nothing. You, ARGH. Obito collapsed, brain already starting to cloud. You played me like a damn fiddle." "No, fiddles require skill." Madara replied, sounding bored. "I played you like a Rio store slide whistle. Now if you'll excuse me, I have a date with the first Hokage, and he always pouts when I'm late." The Susanoo began to walk away, and Obito blacked out. Naruto and Sasuke reached the battlefield just as the transformation finished, which predictably caused another explosion. "Okay, I haven't been present since we met Nagato. What's in the name of the Raikage Thundercock is happening?" Sasuke shouted, trying to see the figure stood in the place of the 10 tails through the cloud of dust and chakra. Obito mantled the Jubi. Kakashi told them, jumping over. That was their plan the whole time, to become the Jinchuriki of the 10 tails. Jinchuriki of the Sasuke glanced across at Naruto, who was his point of reference for how overpowered that might be. You kidding me? 9 is bad enough. And the power increase is exponential. Naruto gulped, attention entirely focused on what was going on in front of him. But Obito's betrayed them. Kakashi told them. Thank fuck. He's planning on using it to take down Madara. He's on our side. Naruto interceded, as the dust began to clear. I don't really think he's on anyone's side. Sasuke glanced at him. That's a very ominous statement. What do you mean? Standing up in a large crater where the Jubi had once been was Obito Uchiha. He was shirtless, of course, and any hint of his previous scarring was completely gone. His hair had turned white, a cloak seemed to come out of his skin around the shoulders, and there were 10 black Magatama markings about his neck. A black staff hung from one hand, and 10 black orbs floated in a circle behind his back. His eyes opened, Rinnegan and Mangekyo Sharingan burning with rage. He's unbalanced. Naruto explained, taking an involuntary step backwards as he got a real feeling of the chakra coming off the man. It was enormous. He's only got half of Kurama's chakra. So he's weaker? Sasuke guessed. Naruto let out a very nervous laugh. Hee, sure. But he's only got the yang half. And he has no way to regulate it, it's all up in his system. Which means... Sasuke pressured. Yang is light, but it's also confidence, masculinity, aggression. An overload of yang does the same thing it did to me. Makes you enraged, overconfident, unthinking. Naruto gulped. A picture-perfect demon host. The Jinchuriki of the imperfect Ten Tails took one look at them and roared. A few dozen miles away, Hinata paused in her mad flight to the battlefield and said, "Oh, shit." Something wrong? Asked Hashirama, from her left. Yep. We're gonna need more power. With that, Hinata turned 90 degrees and began flying as fast as she could towards a very specific location.
Thank you for your views, likes, subscriptions, and overall support of my ongoing efforts to bring great content to all of you. Check out my Patreon for more mature fanfiction. The link is in the description and like everywhere on my channel.